The Priestess's time travel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1076 A Legend Part 3. Su Qingni was doing an experiment. She wanted to see how she treated these people. Would they choose to stand on the side of her good master or raise their sickles to her master for freedom? But this is more than 10 years later, and there is no need to consider the betrayal of these slaves now. After the gold mine was on track and began to make money for Su Qingni bought 2 more pieces of land, opened a farm, planted crops, raised cattle and horses, and planted fruit trees. People who were looking for gold had already flocked to California. With so many people, food was a problem. The food supplied by Su Qingni's farm was snapped up by many people, allowing Su Qingni to make a lot of money. Even if her gold mine can no longer dig out gold, Su Qingni will still be a millionaire relying on the farm. And Su Qingni's career is not limited to 2 items. After the farm was built, Su Qingni opened a factory. Her business territory is getting bigger and bigger. She has not only slaves but also ordinary workers under her, and the 2 sides live in harmony. Ordinary people do not look down on slaves. This is unimaginable in other places. Boss, many new immigrants spread the idea of freedom among our workers and slaves, instigating the slaves to rebel. The shrewd middle-aged man reported the information to Su Qingni. This one was a liar who fled his hometown after being wanted, and was saved by Su Qingni when he was at his wit's end. Su Qingni was impressed by George's talent, and this one was a natural politician. He became Su Qingni's external liaison, helping Su Qingni communicate and deal with the southern and northern regimes. Now the contradictions between the north and the south are getting older and bigger, and they regard the western region as a real battlefield for competition. Su Qingni, the largest slave owner and factory owner in California, has become the target of both parties to win over. If they can't win over, they want to get rid of Su Qingni. Over the years, Su Qingni has encountered many assassinations, and none of them succeeded. Both sides have realized that a woman can become the uncrowned king of California not because she is lucky, but because of her powerful ability. Recently, the assassination of Su Qingni has stopped. Both parties should have changed their strategies, bypassing her and starting from her subordinates. Several of his men have been bribed by people from the north and south. George reported several names to Su Qingni. He felt that those people were simply stupid, and a little bit of benefit made them betray Ms. Lydia. With Ms. Lydia's means, as long as they are loyal to her, they will get a lot in the future. Don't these people consider it? Boss, do you want to give these people too? George made a gesture of wiping his neck. No, I'm a good person and never fight or kill. Su Qingni's words left George speechless. You don't fight or kill? Then how did you become the uncrowned king of the entire California? Don't say it's because of your wealth. People without means can't keep the wealth in their hands. Su Qingni said, fire them and send them to the people who bribed them. Yes, boss. George's eyes lit up. What a good trick of killing with a boro knife. The boss is worthy of being the boss. Anything else? Su Qingni asked. George, boss, should we abolish slavery? Su Qingni, oh, I forgot. You are from the north, so you naturally agree with the north's ideas. No, boss, I agree with your ideas the most. George said hurriedly. It's just that the contradictions between the north and the south are getting bigger and bigger now. It has no impact on us, but it still has a great impact on those at the bottom. What if those slaves really follow the example of slaves in other places and rebel? We can't resolve the danger in advance. We should follow the trend of the times. The trend of the times? It seems that you are more optimistic about the northern regime. Su Qingni said, your suggestion is very good, but I don't accept it, at least not now. Boss. George was puzzled. He always felt that the boss was very wise and saw more clearly than him. She would definitely see the direction of the future, but why would she reject his proposal? Su Qingni, I'm doing an experiment. George, what experiment? An experiment on people's hearts. The contradictions between the north and the south became more intense, and the movement to liberate black slaves set off a storm. This storm also affected Su Qingni's territory. Some people were promoting the idea of liberating black slaves outside Su Qingni's farm, but there was almost no response. The black slaves under Su Qingni went to work every day, went to the bar to have a drink after work, and spent warm moments with their families, and didn't care about liberation or not. What will happen after liberation? Will they still be able to work on Miss Lydia's farm after liberation? Will they still have such generous treatment? Let them rebel against Miss Lydia? How can they? Miss Lydia is such a good person, how can they betray her? This is the idea of most black slaves, but there are also betrayers, but the number of betrayers is very small. Su Qingni ignored these betrayers and drove them out of her farm directly, allowing them to be free to be self-reliant. It only writes that the black slaves who have gained freedom have no jobs, no source of livelihood, and nothing except a free identity. They all regretted it. Seeing the fate of these people, the slaves in the farm became more obedient. How could they be sentenced to Miss Lydia if they could eat meat with Miss Lydia? What northern regimes and southern regimes, all go to the side. If Miss Lydia established her own regime, they would only follow Miss Lydia's regime. I want to participate in this election for the governor of California. Su Qingni ordered George, help me prepare for the preliminary work. George's eyes flashed with a fiery light, and he answered loudly, yes, boss. Su Qingni's election road was extremely smooth. She was the uncrowned king. Now she wanted to wear the crown, but it was just a matter of raising her hand. Su Qingni climbed to the top and became the new governor of California. After the inaugural speech, Su Qingni announced a policy, fly out of the slavery system in California, all black slaves will be free, and the relationship between them and their masters will become an employment relationship. The original masters of the black slaves can no longer beat, kill, or humiliate the black slaves at will, and they must treat them like ordinary employees. At the same time, the black slaves cannot do anything extreme, using the so-called liberation and resistance as an excuse to hurt their former masters and rob their wealth. As soon as this policy came out, the black slaves began to cheer, and the masters of the black slaves also breathed a sigh of relief. They had heard of many places where slaves had rioted, their masters' families had been injured or killed, and their wealth had been robbed. Now, at least they didn't have to live in fear anymore, and someone else was continuing to run their own business, and at most they would just have to pay a little more in salary. Compared to their lives and property, it was nothing. Chapter 1077 A Legend Part 4. The northern regime was very happy to learn about Su Qingni's policy, thinking that Su Qingni had sided with the northern regime. However, Su Qingni poured cold water on them, saying that California had no intention of joining either the north or the south, and that California was neutral. This made the northern regime angry, but there was nothing they could do. It was really that Lydia was too difficult to deal with. Not to mention her own strong strength, before running for governor, she had a private army of thousands of people. After becoming governor, she recruited private soldiers openly, and the number of soldiers in California's army has now reached 20,000. Moreover, this woman also has an arsenal, and the weapons produced in it are much more advanced and powerful than those produced by the northern factories. Lydia, this woman, produced a large number of weapons and equipment for the California Army at all costs. Now the California Army is armed from head to toe, and its combat effectiveness is awesome. Whoever attacks them is going to give their heads to others. Su Qingni made a good start. After her, several states also declared neutrality and did not participate in the struggle between the northern and southern regimes. They also implemented the first decree issued by Su Qingni after taking office. There were no slaves in their state, only hired workers. In fact, apart from the so-called freedom, the treatment of hired workers and slaves was really not much different. But this made the liberated slaves very satisfied, at least their children had the right to go to school. Finally, the war broke out. California, as a neutral state, sat on the Diaoyote, and sold some of their obsolete weapons to both the North and the South, making a fortune from the war. Many people who didn't like war ran to neutral states such as California, making these states more prosperous. Seeing so many people, Su Qingni felt that amateur entertainment should not lag behind. Instead of letting these people go to gamble after work, it is better to watch a movie to kill time. Hollywood can be established. Su Qingni instructed his technicians to make cameras and players. With Su Qingni's technical guidance, the camera and player were completed in one step. It was not a silent movie, nor a black and white image, but a color sound movie. Although the color was still very dim and the color blocks were not rich, it was enough to shock people who saw it. George and Su Qingni's other subordinates didn't come back to their senses for a long time after seeing the video played by Su Qingni. After a long time, George looked at Su Qingni with eyes as if he was looking at God. "Boss, this is a miracle. Su Qingni nodded and ordered another subordinate, Ellen's. This is the plan. The filming and construction of Hollywood are left to you. Ellen's is one of the 3 most business-savvy people among her subordinates. 2 of them are now helping her manage the farm and factory industries. Finally, her most capable subordinate George followed her into politics and became Su Qingni's deputy, officially becoming a politician. So although he was very interested in movies, he had no time to manage the film industry. Just when the Civil War was in full swing, several independent states began a magical entertainment. Everyone can go to the cinema and watch a movie with a plot for a small amount of money. Some of the plots were sad and some were extremely joyful. They were very attractive and even more amazing. What kind of technology could lock a real person into a machine and then project it onto the screen from another machine? The people of these independent states were all attracted by the movie and didn't pay attention to the war at all. This made both sides of the war feel uncomfortable. They felt that without the audience, they had no strength to fight. Su Qingni personally wrote a script, which was somewhat similar to Waterloo Bridge, but it was more about describing the waiting of the relatives of the soldiers and the pain after receiving the notice of their death. After the movie was screened, many people began to call for an end to the war as soon as possible. The relatives of the soldiers were still waiting for them to go home. Everyone on the battlefield was affected, and the war could not be fought. People in the North and South regimes didn't know what to do. The war could not be fought, they could not subdue the other side, and could not maximize their own interests. People from both the North and the South hated Su Qingni and said that Su Qingni was a shit-stirrer. Su Qingni asked back, "I am a shit-stirrer, what are you?" Those people were so angry that they were fuming. Some of them were so angry that they lost their minds and sent troops to attack California without any care. Su Qingni sneered, showed her fangs, and beat back the invading troops. Only then did people from other states see the power of California correctly. At this time, Su Qingni brought the governors of other neutral states to act as peacemakers. Everyone, stop fighting. Sit down and talk it out. Fighting will hurt feelings. People from the North and South regimes. Cyrillic lettered, if you send your California troops to garrison on the other side of the 2 armies, we can't fight. Because of Su Qingni's threat of force, the peace talks went smoothly. Both the North and the South took a step back. The issue of striving for liberation must be resolved. The Southern regime had to agree to this, and its operation method referred to the policy clauses of slave liberation in the independent state. Su Qingni asked George to come up with clauses that were beneficial to both the North and the South. When both sides lost some of their interests, they would get corresponding compensation from other aspects. In the end, the Civil War in the United States ended early. This Civil War made Su Qingni famous. In another election after the war, Su Qingni became president as a woman. Men didn't dare to talk about gender issues, because this female president was so powerful. Many women heard that Su Qingni became president, and they all regarded her as an idol. These women began to walk out of their homes, started their own careers, and feminist ideas began to emerge. The news of Su Qingni spread back to England and to Longbourn. Mr. Bennet, who was still alive but in poor health, was stunned. Lydia Bennet? It's the same name, right? His daughter wouldn't be so amazing, right? However, he had a feeling that the female president these people were talking about was his little daughter who is rebellious and dared to run away from home and go to the New World alone. Should he be proud of her? The other daughters of the Bennet family returned to Longbourn and asked their father whether their sister had really become the supreme ruler of a country. Before Mr. Bennet could answer, a letter from the United States answered everyone's doubts. The female president is really Lydia. The little sister who was useless in their eyes actually grew up to be the best person in a place they couldn't see. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1078, The World of Scholars. You once said that I like to be stubborn and look at people with prejudice. I thought I had changed. Elizabeth said to her husband Mr. Darcy, in fact, I have only changed on the surface. I am still very selfish. Just like looking at the Lydia incident. Elizabeth self-examined. When my father brought those treasures home and said that Lydia found them, although I believed it, I still did not change my opinion of her. I thought she was reckless and frivolous, and went to the New World to seek death? At that time, I accepted Lydia's kindness, but still looked down on her and didn't want her to be good. Tell me, am I a bad sister? No. Mr. Darcy hugged his wife. I thought the same as you at the time. It's not that we have prejudices against Lydia, but she herself cannot be judged by ordinary people. Maybe those frivolous looks in the past were her disguise, or maybe the New World made her grow up rapidly. Such conversations happened between every lady in the Bennet family and their husbands. Many years have passed, and the couples who used to get married because of love no longer have love. Some husbands even have extramarital affairs and want to find a lover. But now that the news of Lydia has been passed back to the mainland, the man who had an affair dared not do so. He put away his little thoughts and treated his wife better. Su Qingni has been staying in the United States and has never returned to England. But because of her existence, the 4 sisters of the original body are all very happy, at least they think they are happy. I am crossing to the dividing line of the New World. The New World is a world of literati. It is the world in the novels where those who write good poems and articles gain power through literary cultivation and can materialize the scenes described in poems and articles into battles. This world makes Su Qingni feel novel, but also makes her dissatisfied. Because only men can rely on literary cultivation, women cannot participate in the imperial examinations and cannot cultivate, so even if they are talented, they can only be ordinary people. The only reason why Su Qingni traveled to the current body is that she encountered a fight between 2 men, which involved ordinary people nearby, and the original body had no ability to protect herself, so she lost her life because she was affected by the power. Fortunately, Su Qingni came through in time, otherwise the original body's property would have been robbed. The original body can be said to be a single-line inheritance for 3 generations. The original grandfather had no brothers or sisters, nor did the original mother. The original mother was a powerful one. The original grandfather had no sons, and he wanted to marry his daughter to his wife, so that she could give birth to a grandson and take over the family business. The daughter just wanted to be a happy inner courtyard woman. The original mother did the same thing before. Although she was very talented in business, she settled in the backyard after getting married and became a virtuous wife. Unfortunately, the original grandfather and mother were deceived. The man they invited to marry was a man with evil intentions. This man already had a wife and son, but because his family was poor, for money, he hid his wife and son, pretending to be a single scholar and came to the Su family as a son-in-law. This man behaved very well in the Su family, with a simple and honest appearance. Even if he did not make any progress in his studies and could not practice a trace of literary spirit, the Su family did not dislike him. And this man always took a lot of money from the Su family on the pretext that studying cost money, and took it all back to support his wife and son. People are always greedy. After the lives of the 3 members of the family got better, they were not satisfied with their current lives, and they were more greedy for the rich life of the Su family, so they thought of annexing the entire Su family. They bribed assassins and wanted to rob and kill Mr. Su when he was out on business. In this way, the Su family would fall into the hands of the son-in-law without a backbone. As a result, Mr. Su was lucky and was saved by a passing scholar. However, although his life was saved, Mr. Su was injured. Therefore, the son-in-law, named Tao Qingyu, took over the Su family's business. Because Mr. Su was still alive, Tao Qingyu did not dare to be too presumptuous, but greed would inevitably show some. The shopkeepers of the Su family were all Mr. Su's confidants. If they felt something was wrong, they wanted to tell Mr. Su. Mr. Su was recovering from his injuries. Mrs. Su, the original mother, did not want her father to worry, so she met with a shopkeeper in person and heard the information the shopkeeper said. Although Mrs. Su was a good wife and mother, she was firm in her heart and not an ordinary woman. Moreover, how could Madame Su not be on guard against Tao Qingyu after hearing so many stories about son-in-laws embezzling their wives' wealth? Madame Su secretly asked someone to investigate Tao Qingyu and found out that he had a wife and son, and that Tao Qingyu had bribed a killer. It was also found that Tao Qingyu failed in one plan and came up with another poisonous plan, buying poison to poison Master Su. Madame Su was angry and simply poisoned Tao Qingyu first, and threw Tao Qingyu's body at the door of where his wife and son lived. When Tao's wife saw Tao Qingyu's body and knew that their plan had failed, she was so scared that she buried Tao Qingyu's body hastily and fled with her son, and no one knew where she went. Master Su originally wanted to find another husband for his daughter, But Madame Su was afraid of introducing another ungrateful person into the family. It happened that she was already pregnant, so she asked Master Su to give up this idea. Later, Madame Su gave birth to her original body and took on the family business herself. Madame Su had suffered from the loss of a son-in-law, and she did not plan to let her daughter also take in a son-in-law. Her ideas were very open. She wanted her daughter to have a child through artificial insemination. She didn't want the child's father, but only the child, who would inherit the Su family in the future. In response, Su Qingni gave her 2 thumbs up. Unfortunately, Madame Su didn't see her daughter give birth to a grandson or granddaughter. When the original body was 14 years old, Madame Su died. However, the original body was brought up by Madame Su to learn since childhood, and had experience in running the industry. After Madame Su's death, the original body took over the Su family's industry smoothly. This disappointed those who coveted the Su family's industry. This time the original body was injured, and those people showed up again. Unfortunately, Su Qingni traveled through time and their calculations failed again. Su Qingni suspected that the death of the original body was related to these people. Otherwise, how could the attacks of the 2 scholars fall around the original body by chance? Su Qingni asked someone to investigate with suspicion. Sure enough, someone bribed the 2 scholars to pretend to fight, but the target was the original body. Su Qingni snorted coldly and gave an order. The man who plotted to kill the original body was immediately bankrupt and thrown into prison. The 2 scholars who directly caused the original body to lose his life were also thrown into prison. "Miss, what are you doing?" The maid Chunning saw Su Qingni getting up early in the morning and stretching her fists and feet in the yard, and couldn't help asking. "Practice." Su Qingni blinked. "I dreamed of a fairy last night. She taught me how women can also practice." Chapter 1079, The World of Scholars II. Chunning sighed. She knew how unwilling the young lady was to not be able to practice. She was no different. Just because they were women, they could not participate in the imperial examinations and could not obtain the literary energy to practice. They could only watch the men practice powerful skills, and with the power, they had a long life and remained young for a long time. And what about women? No matter how they take care of themselves, youth only lasts for a few years. After a few years, seeing wrinkles on their faces, while the men are still young, which woman still has the courage to stand by the man? How desperate is it to only see a woman younger than herself replace herself? Chunning was even a little glad that she was just a maid, and she could only marry an ordinary person in the future, and her husband would grow old with her. This way, her mentality could also be balanced. "Chunning, do you want to practice with me, young lady?" Chunning heard her young lady ask herself this, and heard herself answer loudly and firmly, "Yes." If she could really practice, why would she miss this opportunity? I think many girls have the same idea as her. This world has sufficient spiritual energy, otherwise it would not be possible to support men to materialize the attacks and poems. So much spiritual energy also made Su Qingni's cultivation very smooth. This world can accommodate nearly 1/3 of Su Qingni's soul, and the upper limit of power is very high. The more souls come in, the shorter the time it takes for Su Qingni to recover her own strength. In just 1 month, Su Qingni has already possessed the strength of a cultivator at the level of the nascent soul stage, which is equivalent to the strength of a great scholar in this world. And maids such as Chunning, yes, not only Chunning, but all the maids around her have heard that they can practice, and they all practice hard with Chunning, have already introduced Qi into their bodies and have the strength of the first level of Qi training. Of course, they are not as good as those students who have achieved fame, but they can also challenge ordinary scholars. Su Qingni handed the business to a trusted shopkeeper and left the city where she had lived for more than 10 years with a group of maids. This made someone who came to find her come up empty-handed. Tao Xiaoyun is a time traveler. He traveled to the body of a poor scholar and knew that this world has extraordinary power. Tao Xiaoyun was excited. The world of literati. It is simply a blessing for him, a man who studies liberal arts. In the previous world, there were countless classic poems and articles. Just picking one of them could shock the world and gain the initiation of literary spirit. Needless to say, his future is definitely bright and brilliant. Not to mention the great Confucian scholars, he might have the opportunity to ascend to the legendary positions of the sub-sage and the saint. When Tao Xiaoyun traveled through time, it was the time of the county examination. With the help of a poem from his previous life, he had a vision, which attracted the attention of the examiner. He passed the examination smoothly and entered the Confucius temple to worship the saint. He received more literary spirit initiation than other students. Tao Xiaoyun personally felt the benefits of literary spirit. This literary spirit can nourish his body, make his body stronger, and increase his lifespan accordingly. It can increase his spirit and soul, make his mind clearer, enhance his memory and concentration, and enhance his understanding accordingly. It can give him strength. Although he is a weak scholar, he can kill a tiger with one punch. Tao Xiaoyun thinks this world is simply amazing. After attending the looming banquet, Tao Xiaoyun returned to his original home. The original body lived with his widowed mother, and lived a very poor life. The original body's previous study expenses were all earned by his widowed mother's embroidery. Because of overuse of the eyes, his mother's eyes have shown some signs of half-blindness. When the original body left, there were many fears left in his body. Tao Xiaoyun took over these reluctances, one of which was to take good care of his mother, make a name for himself, and let his mother enjoy happiness. Therefore, although Tao Xiaoyun had no feelings for the original body's mother, Li, he also respected this woman. After all, it was not easy for her as a widow to raise her son, and she also worked hard to send her son to school. Just this motherly love is worthy of Tao Xiaoyun's respect. And it is to let Li enjoy happiness, which is easy to achieve. I only passed the examination for Tongshen, and many people sent gifts, and these gifts were enough for the living expenses of the two people in the family for several years, so that Li no longer had to embroider to make money, and could have a good rest. In the future, I will pass the examination for Zhouke, Juran and Jinchi, and I will get more benefits, and Li will naturally enjoy better happiness. Anyway, the lifespan of a woman in this world is no more than 100 years, and I can live thousands of years in the future by practicing with Wenqi. But it is easy to complete after decades of filial care. Now, let's buy a maid to serve Li. Tao Xiaoyun thought to himself while eating the food made by Li. Li's cooking skills are really not good. She can only cook the food well. Tao Xiaoyun can eat 1 or 2 meals, but forget it for a long time. The next day, Tao Xiaoyun went out and bought a mother and daughter. The mother, Aunt Zhang, is responsible for the chores in the kitchen, and the daughter, Qiyu, is Li's personal maid. Li was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling. In front of Aunt Zhang, Qiyu had a bit of master's dignity, which made Tao Xiaoyun feel a little strange. Could it be that the Tao family was also a rich family in the past and had servants to serve them? After dinner, Tao Xiaoyun returned to his room, thinking that there was not much money in his hand after buying slaves in fields, and he had to think of a way to make money. Before, he thought that the gifts and money given by others were not much, but now it seems that there are not many at all. Son, are you studying? Li's voice sounded at the door. No. Tao Xiaoyun opened the door and let Li in. Mother, what do you want to talk to your son about? Li sat down on the chair and asked Tao Xiaoyun to sit opposite her. Tao Xiaoyun saw Li's serious face, and his heart trembled. He also solemnized his expression and waited for Li to speak. Li sighed and spoke, Son, now I have grown up, and I have also achieved fame and can avenge your father. Then Li told the story of a loving couple who were persecuted by a powerful man and separated from each other. In the story, Li and Tao Qingni were a loving couple and had a smart and lovely son. However, Tao Qingni was actually favored by a powerful family, who forcibly separated Tao Qingni and Li, and forced Tao Qingni to become a son-in-law of the young lady of that family and live under the oppression of that young lady. Tao Qingni missed his wife and son in his heart, so he often visited them secretly and gave them some silver. After all, his wife was a weak woman and could not support 2 sons. However, the wealthy family found out that Tao Qingni was supporting his wife and son. They felt that Tao Qingni had betrayed their young lady and were so enraged that they took Tao Qingni's life. Chapter 1080, The World of Scholars III. In Li's words, Tao Qingni and his family of 3 were so innocent, and the powerful Su family was so vicious. Tao Xiaoyun was furious. Mom, don't worry, your son will definitely avenge your father and will not let the Su family go. Tao Xiaoyun said. If the original body was still there, he would definitely do the same. After that, Tao Xiaoyun began to inquire about the news of the Su family. During this period, he participated in the prefectural examination and the academy examination, and obtained the title of scholar and the corresponding ability. The news of the Su family was also delivered to Tao Xiaoyun. Although the Su family is rich, it is not a big family. With Tao Xiaoyun's current ability and fame, it is easy to deal with the Su family. However, when he saw that Su Qingni was the only one left in the Su family, Tao Xiaoyun had an idea in his mind. Su Qingni is his sister by blood. As long as he confirms his identity as Su Qingni's brother, won't Su Qingni's property become his own? The Su family is so rich. If he controls the Su family, he won't have to worry about making money anymore. Tao Xiaoyun decided to befriend Su Qingni and let her willingly acknowledge him as her brother. Tao Xiaoyun told Li about this idea. He thought Li would disagree and prepared a lot of excuses. However, Li agreed very readily and told Tao Xiaoyun to be careful not to let Su Qingni find out that he was lying to her. She also talked about a lot of deception methods and precautions. Tao Xiaoyun couldn't help but think of the information he had collected. There were many differences between what was written on it and what Li said. The information did not say why the Su family wanted to kill Tao Qingyu, the son-in-law, but it explained that Tao Qingyu took the initiative to come to the Su family to be a son-in-law. At that time, there were many people who wanted to be a son-in-law for the Su family. Tao Qingyu competed with many people and was finally chosen by the master of the Su family. Tao Qingyu had a wife and son at that time, but he concealed it and ran to the Su family to be a son-in-law. Why? It goes without saying. As a modern man, even if he didn't know the reason why the Su family killed Tao Qingyu, he could guess it. It was nothing more than a phoenix man trying to seize the property of his wife's family, wanting to kill his wife's parents, or even his wife, but accidentally being discovered by his wife's family. Now after hearing what Li said, Tao Xiaoyun no longer had a good impression of Li. He thought that Li was also deceived by Tao Qingyu, but listening to her, she knew exactly what she did to Tao Qingyu. What a poor persecuted original wife, what a poor mother who lost her husband and could only escape with her son, what a poor woman who worked hard for her son for half her life. The image of Li in Tao Xiaoyun's memory completely collapsed. Tao Xiaoyun lost his initial respect for Li, but in view of the original owner's wishes, he would still take good care of Li. Give her good food and clothes, and let her live a life like a noble lady. But don't think that he will be as close to Li as the original body and obey her orders. After Tao Xiaoyun settled Li, he got up and went to Pingxin City where the Su family was. He didn't think that he, a time traveler, couldn't win over a native girl. She was just a little girl of 15 or 16 years old. Even if she had already controlled a family, she couldn't have much knowledge. With the verbal battle skills that he had acquired after years of being on the internet, it shouldn't be difficult to convince a little girl. What's more, he and the little girl were blood brothers and sisters. The little girl had lost her parents and was all alone. She must still want a relative. He was the little girl's biological brother, so young and talented. Even if their father was wrong, it was all about the previous generation, and the person who had been dead for more than 10 years. It was impossible to vent his anger on the only relative because of a dead person, right? When the little girl was coaxed into his hands, the Su family's property would become his in disguise. Tao Xiaoyun thought happily and came to the gate of the Su family. He asked the buck boy to knock on the door. After a long time, the door opened. The concierge stared at Tao Xiaoyun in confusion and asked, "Excuse me, what can I do for you?" The servant said, "My young master is here to visit your young lady. Please let her know." The concierge thought that Tao Xiaoyun was an admirer of his young lady. Seeing Tao Xiaoyun's handsome and elegant appearance, he felt sorry. It was a pity that the young man came a step too late. "Well, my young lady is not at home. She went out to travel." "What?" Tao Xiaoyun was surprised. "Why would your young lady go out to travel? An ordinary rich lady, not a man, can't practice, how can she travel?" "Ah, does the young lady need a reason to go out to travel?" Not many people knew the purpose of Su Qingni's going out, so the concierge naturally didn't know why Su Qingni went out. Tao Xiaoyun had to change the question and asked, "When will your young lady come back?" The concierge said, "The young lady didn't say. But before she left, she appointed 2 highly respected shopkeepers to be responsible for the year-end account summary. I don't think the young lady will come back this year. It's only June now, which means Su Qingni won't be home for at least half a year." Tao Xiaoyun's face looked a little bad. Without the real owner, his plan couldn't be implemented, and he couldn't stay in Pingxin City waiting for Su Qingni, so he could only return in dismay. This time, Tao Xiaoyun brought out almost all the money in his family, thinking that after recognizing Su Qingni, he would have a large amount of money from the Su family to enjoy. So he spent a lot of money along the way, and now even the return trip is a little tight. What a trouble. It's impossible to shout that he is Su Qingni's biological brother and ask the Su family for money now. Not to mention whether the Su family will recognize him. Just this one move is very embarrassing for him as a scholar. Tao Xiaoyun had a headache. So making money is the most important thing. Unfortunately, he was a liberal arts student, and he didn't know any of the ways to make money that time travelers must use, such as cement, glass, and soap. Moreover, as a grown man, he never went into the kitchen, and he relied on takeout for meals. He couldn't even think of making money by selling recipes. Even the famous dish of braised pork, Tao Xiaoyun didn't know how to make it. Tao Xiaoyun frowned and walked on the street, feeling very irritated. The book boy followed behind him, helping Tao Xiaoyun to push away the passers-by beside him to prevent Tao Xiaoyun from bumping into others. Suddenly, Tao Xiaoyun stopped. The book boy was puzzled and looked in the direction of Tao Xiaoyun's sight, but it was a restaurant. The restaurant was newly opened, and there was a large group of people outside, but they were not there to be surprised, but gathered outside the restaurant to see what was strange, and they were discussing something. Curiosity is everyone's nature, and the book boy is no exception. He thought that his son was also curious and looked over there, but he didn't know that his son had heard the content of those people's words. Chapter 1081, The World of Scholars IV. After practicing, Tao Xiaoyun's eyes and ears were sharp, and his 5 senses were sharp. Although he didn't listen carefully, he could still hear what everyone was talking about, which aroused his interest. It turned out that this restaurant was newly opened. The name and plaque had been decided, but it lacked a couplet to attract customers. The restaurant posted a notice to collect good couplets. If someone could write a couplet that satisfied the restaurant and it was adopted, the restaurant would definitely offer 100 gold as a thank you. Tao Xiaoyun was attracted by the 2 words 100 gold. Although this 100 gold is not 100 taels of gold, it is 100 taels of silver. At today's prices, this 100 taels of silver is enough for an ordinary family to live for 10 years. And for a family of scholars who practiced, 100 taels of silver is enough for the family to live for a month. Of course, this is the case when there is only one scholar in the family. Tao Xiaoyun immediately walked towards the direction of the restaurant. The book boy hurriedly caught up and helped his son to separate the crowd and let Tao Xiaoyun walk into the restaurant. There were also many people in the lobby of the restaurant, and many scholars also wanted to earn this 100 gold. It's really too expensive to study. This is why Tao Xiaoyun looked down on Li. The original owner was able to study and take the imperial examination, and the expenses during that time were not something that Li could earn by embroidery. Tao Xiaoyun had seen that Li's embroidery was not particularly exquisite, but at the level of ordinary embroiderers. A finished product could only be exchanged for 1 or 2 taels of silver at most. Li could not embroider a few finished products in a month. Even if Li could embroider 10 finished products a month and earn 10 taels of silver, it would be enough for ordinary people to live a rich life, but it was not enough for the original owner to study and practice. So where did the remaining 90 taels of silver come from? Tao Xiaoyun understood it as soon as he thought about it. Tao Qingyu should have dug a lot of benefits from the Su family. Li enjoyed the benefits of the Su family while resenting them. This character is simply amazing. There are many scholars in the restaurant who have achieved fame, but the owner of the restaurant is a very picky person. He should also be a scholar with a meritorious title, and he is talented and has a high vision. He looked down on the couplets made by those scholars and felt that they were not as good as his own, so he did not adopt any of them. When Tao Xiaoyun walked in, a waiter dressed as a waiter came up to him and took him to a table. On the table were pens, inkstones, paper, a pot of tea and a plate of snacks. Tao Xiaoyun was hungry, so he picked up a snack and started eating it, which was not like the other scholars. Those scholars were thinking about how to make good couplets and had no mood to eat the snacks on the table. His appearance attracted the attention of the restaurant owner, who smiled and said, "It seems that the man is very confident. I want to see what kind of good couplets he can write." Tao Xiaoyun ate the snacks on the plate slowly and even gave 2 pieces to the book boy. There was no way. The master and the servant had not eaten breakfast and were hungry. After eating the snacks, Tao Xiaoyun picked up the brush. The book boy was very smart and came forward to grind ink for Tao Xiaoyun. Tao Xiaoyun dipped the ink and wrote 2 couplets in a chic manner. 1 cup, 2 cups, and you won't get drunk. Birds cry and everything revives. The word Jing has 3 suns, and there will be days when you miss the sun. Day by day, There are 36,000 days in 100 years. The word pin has 3 mouths, and it's appropriate to open your mouth and open your mouth. Q cow cow, I urge you to drink another cup of wine. These 2 couplets were 2 absolute couplets that Tao Xiaoyun saw on the internet before he traveled through time. They are just right for the restaurant. Because the boss paid attention to Tao Xiaoyun, other people in the restaurant also paid more attention to him. When the waiter saw Tao Xiaoyun put down his pen, he immediately came over to take away the couplet he wrote and presented it to the boss for appreciation. Good, good, good. The boss applauded when he saw the 2 couplets. Each of these 2 couplets is absolute. The boss decided to adopt both couplets, one to be hung outside the restaurant door and the other to be hung in the restaurant lobby. The man who wrote the couplet is a great talent, and his future is definitely limitless. I should have made friends with him when he was still insignificant. The restaurant owner thought so, put on a friendly smile on his face, walked down from the 2nd floor, and walked towards Tao Xiaoyun. Tao Xiaoyun walked out of the restaurant with satisfaction. This time, he was very successful in pretending to be awesome. He conquered everyone in the restaurant with 2 pairs of couplets, and got more than 5 times the silver he was paid, and established a good relationship with the restaurant owner. This restaurant owner is not an ordinary person. His name is Lu Shuhen. He is a distant relative of the Prime Minister of the dynasty. He is also a scholar. His family assets are quite rich, enough to buy him cultivation resources. Tao Xiaoyun got a connection from Lu Shuhen, a recommendation for him to take the exam at Pingxin Academy. Pingxin Academy is one of the 10 most famous academies on the mainland, and it trains a group of jinshi every 3 years. Well, it should be said that in the annual joint examination, 90% of the jinshi quotas are divided up by the 10 academies. Studying in Pingxin Academy does not guarantee that you will pass the imperial examination, but the chance is definitely higher than that of a scholar who does not study in the top 10 academies. And there is a chance to pass the imperial examination, but passing the imperial examination is absolutely 100%. All the scholars in the world want to enter the top 10 academies desperately. But the top 10 academies are not open to everyone who wants to enter. The top 10 academies only accept the best talents, and the number of people who can enter the top 10 academies every year is very small. For those scholars who want to study in the academy will conduct rigorous examinations. This entrance examination is not easier than the imperial examination. And not everyone can participate in the college entrance examination, otherwise the gate of the academy will be trampled by others. Only those who are qualified for recommendation can go to the academy for the examination. This is very unfriendly to poor students, but there is no way. Nobles and those in power have privileges. Tao Xiaoyun had heard of the 10 great academies, but he was not even qualified to take the exam. Even though he performed well in the county and prefecture exams, and his poems and lyrics caused strange phenomena, he did not get the exam quota for the 10 great academies given to him by the examiner. Who said he was a poor boy with no money and no power? Those places were given to students from wealthy families. It is said that their families paid a lot of price. Tao Xiaoyun also yearned for the 10 great academies in his heart. He did not go there to study. With the classics of the last world, he could make some achievements in cultivation and imperial examinations. Entering the academy was just to expand his network. The students in the academy are all future big men, so naturally they have to know them in advance. It is best to accept a few as younger brothers and let them become his assistants. These people are not at a loss. He will stand at the top of the world in the future. His younger brothers will only be a step lower than him and will also become one of the most powerful people in the world. Chapter 1082, The World of Scholars 5. Tao Xiaoyun found a way to make money. In this world, literary style is prevalent. Merchants and shops will hang couplets or calligraphy and painting. Scholars will get a lot of money by writing calligraphy, painting, poetry and lyrics for these merchants. Of course, because of the prevalence of literary style, even merchants have read books and have a high appreciation of poetry, calligraphy and painting. Scholars without real skills cannot earn money from merchants. Tao Xiaoyun has great self-confidence, and the knowledge of his previous life is his confidence. On the way back to Shannon City, where Tao Xiaoyun originally lived, he made money by writing couplets and poems for others. Not only did he make a lot of money, but he also made his reputation as a talented man. Such a reputation is very useful to Tao Xiaoyun. At least he will be taken seriously when he goes to the academy to take the entrance examination. When I returned home, I found that Li was living a good life. Having beautiful new clothes to wear, delicious food, and maids to serve is what Li thought was a good life. Therefore, she lived a very satisfied life and did not ask for more. Tao Xiaoyun said that he wanted to go to the academy to study. Although Li was reluctant to let her son leave her, she gritted her teeth and agreed to it when she thought of her son's future. Tao Xiaoyun left Li 1,000 taels of silver. This money was not needed to pay for his study. It was only for Li's own use, which was enough for her to use for a long time. Tao Xiaoyun then went to Qingxin Academy to sign up for the entrance examination. The entrance examination was divided into 5 levels, including couplets, poems, policy essays, prose, calligraphy and painting. Tao Xiaoyun easily passed 4 levels with the classic poems and policy essays in his previous life, but he was a little behind in the calligraphy and painting level. His calligraphy and painting were not as good as those who were trained by big families since childhood. However, Tao Xiaoyun took a trick and used the sketch method to draw a lifelike portrait for the examiner. There is no sketching and oil painting method in this world. When the examiner saw this portrait, although he did not shock Tao Xiaoyun as a god, he was also surprised and let Tao Xiaoyun pass this level of the exam. Tao Xiaoyun officially became a student of Qingxin Academy. He thrived in the academy and was highly valued by teachers and leaders. Some students admired his talent and made friends with him, while others were jealous of him. He naturally tried to win over those who made friends with him and tried to make them his younger brothers. Those who were jealous of him, of course, were slapped in the face and became stepping stones on his way to growth. A year later, Tao Xiaoyun participated in the provincial examination and won the first place. He became famous and became a popular candidate for the top of the examination. In the past few years, every time Tao Xiaoyun wrote a work, he could arouse the vision of heaven and earth, and gain the initiation of literary energy, which made the number of literary styles in his body accumulate more and more. Although he has not participated in the examination yet, the amount of literary energy in his body has exceeded the amount of literary energy in the body of ordinary Jinshi, and he has the ability to surpass Jinshi. Now, Tao Xiaoyun is going to Beijing with his partners to participate in the examination, and the capital has become another battlefield for his rise. Tao Xiaoyun got the script of the protagonist, so naturally many things happened after he arrived in the capital. When the Princess Fente was selecting a husband, Tao Xiaoyun's poem "The clouds think of clothes and the flowers think of faces, the spring breeze blows the threshold and the dew is thick. If we hadn't met on the top of the Jade Mountain, we would have met under the moon on the Jade platform" attracted the princess's heart, and she chose Tao Xiaoyun as her husband regardless of everything. This made other talented people in the capital jealous. After that, there were constant challenges from talented people. Tao Xiaoyun proved himself with his own talent and convinced those talented people. During this period, there were dirty people who used assassination or framing to deal with Tao Xiaoyun, but Tao Xiaoyun himself was a strong man, and those assassins couldn't kill Tao Xiaoyun at all, and in the end they were all killed by Tao Xiaoyun. As for framing, with Tao Xiaoyun's experience in reading novels, the so-called framing was all child's play in front of him, and he could easily find a solution in the novel. This is also because Tao Xiaoyun has the relationship of luck protecting him. The halo of the male protagonist. The joint examination and the palace examination were held successively. Tao Xiaoyun first won the title of the first place and then became the champion. The emperor promised to marry him on the spot, and Tao Xiaoyun became the emperor's son-in-law. That was really glorious. Not only the princess, but also many rich ladies and prostitutes in the capital were attracted to Tao Xiaoyun. This world respects men and the strong. Because men have a long lifespan due to cultivation, it is impossible for them to have only one woman. It is normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. It is also normal to marry another wife after the previous wife dies. Some powerful men can even marry more than 10, 20 or even dozens of wives in their lifetime. Look carefully, it is the wife. Concubines are not counted. If concubines are counted, this man has at least hundreds of women in his life, which is not much worse than the emperor. Although the status of a princess is precious, she cannot practice cultivation. After getting married, she actually depends on the emperor's son-in-law for life. Therefore, she is not as confident as the princesses in other worlds and does not allow the emperor's son-in-law to take concubines. After Tao Xiaoyun married the princess, he successively married the daughter of a general and the daughter of a prime minister as his co-wives, and took the daughter of a merchant family and the courtesan of a brothel as his concubines. 3 wives and 4 concubines, all of them are here at once. With a bright future, beautiful women by his side, and strong personal strength, Tao Xiaoyun felt that he was complete and did not even think about recognizing Su Qingni as his sister. Is the money of the Su family as much as that of his concubine's family? His concubine Jin was born into the richest family in the capital, and the money in her family was enough to rival the treasury. When Jin entered his house, she brought a dowry worth tens of millions of taels, and Jin gave most of it to him. He is now also a local tyrant, and he doesn't care about the little wealth of the Su family. Su Qingni didn't know that Tao Xiaoyun had been thinking about the Su family's property, and she didn't even know that this half-brother had come to see her. Su Qingni traveled with a group of maids while practicing. When they met women who needed help or women who were equally unwilling, they would teach them how to practice. Su Qingni taught the women a modified method that combined martial arts and cultivation. This method is fast to practice and powerful, but the corresponding lifespan will be reduced accordingly. Originally, the lifespan of practicing to the foundation building stage would be 300 years, the lifespan of the golden elixir would be 800 years, and the lifespan of the primordial infant would be 1,500 years. However, if you practice Professor Su Qingni's method of practice, your lifespan will be halved, and the lifespan of the foundation building stage will only be 150 years, the lifespan of the golden elixir will be 400 years, and the lifespan of the primordial infant will be 750 years. But even if the women knew that their lifespan was halved, they were very satisfied. You know, women can't practice, and they can only live for 100 years at most. Moreover, if you practice with a normal cultivation method of cultivation, it is too slow, and the women in the early stage have no power to compete with men. So, if you want men and women to be equal in this world, you must make some sacrifices. Chapter 1083, The World of Scholars VI. Suddenly I heard that there is a fairy mountain on the sea, and the mountain is in the void. The pavilions are exquisite and the clouds rise, and there are many fairies in it. A rumor suddenly spread on the mainland, saying that there is a fairy mountain above the East China Sea, and all the people living on it are women, and they are very powerful women. They have not cultivated literary energy, and they can't write stunning articles, but they can also mobilize the power of heaven and earth, fight with the power of heaven and earth, and fly in the sky with the power of heaven and earth. In the eyes of ordinary people, these women are fairies. But in the eyes of Confucian scholars who have achieved success in cultivation, these women have mastered another way of cultivation. Some Confucian scholars went to the fairy island and were received by the women. The attitude of the women was very good. Although they were not particularly enthusiastic, they did not reject the Confucian scholars to visit. The Confucian scholars got the answers they wanted to know from the women. Sure enough, the women on this island are also practitioners. What they cultivate is not literary energy, but the so-called key practitioners, who directly absorb the power of heaven and earth into their bodies to strengthen themselves. The women said that it was a method passed down by a fairy. The fairies felt sorry for the fact that women in this world could not practice, could not have an unchanging appearance and a long life, and could not always accompany their beloved men. So they passed down this practice method. This practice method is only suitable for women, not men. The Confucian scholars did not believe it, and tried to practice according to the method taught by the women, but got nothing. When Su Qingni created the method, she set it up that only men could practice Wenqi, and women could not practice it. Why should men practice the new Kung Fu? It is fair for men and women to master only one way of practice. After returning to the mainland, the Confucian scholars spread what they saw on the island, causing an uproar. Not all men are as broad-minded as the Confucian scholars and can accept women practicing. If women practice and become powerful, can they still stay obediently in the backyard of men? Will they still willingly accept men having 3 wives and 4 concubines and many maids? These dirty-minded men shouted the words hens crowing at dawn and criticized the women on the island as witches. However, these people did not get a good result. The women on the island were not easy to mess with. These people with bad intentions were powerful but not top-notch. It would be strange if they could cultivate to the top with their mentality. A fairy came out of the island and killed all of them. She beat these people up. She did not kill them, but she crippled them so that they could no longer cultivate. This move shocked everyone on the mainland. No one dared to publicly say anything unkind to the women on the island. Even if they were dissatisfied, they could only say it secretly. The woman's move made the eyes of women all over the world brighten. Many women left their homes and went to the fairy island to ask for cultivation. Many women's families forbade them to go out, forbade them to talk about the fairy island, and forbade them to cultivate. Some girls gave in, but more girls were unwilling to give in. They ran away from home very resolutely and went to the fairy island. Along the way, the delicate and gentle girls suffered a lot, but they gritted their teeth and endured it, and finally came to the fairy island. The woman who went out of the island to teach the dirty man a lesson was Qingni. With Su Qingni's careful training, she now has the strength of the golden core stage. Su Qingni gave Qingni the task of receiving the women who came to become his disciples. Although the immortal island is large, it cannot accommodate all the women who came to become his disciples. So Qingni accepted all the women who had a falling out with their families and ran away from home, and left them to practice on the island. For those who have a good relationship with their families and whose families support their daughters and granddaughters to practice, the practice method was given to them so that they can practice at home. Qingni told all the girls who came to become his disciples that they could teach the practice method to others and let more girls practice it. Their goal is to make all the women in the world stronger and better, and be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with men. The women nodded repeatedly while holding the practice method. As Qingni said, they not only practiced themselves, but also dragged their sisters, nieces, nephews, mothers, and aunts to practice together after returning home. The practice method of cultivation spread very quickly on the mainland. Since then, women have straightened their backs. They no longer have to be subordinate to men, and no longer have to endure men's indecision. If men dare to find other women, they will beat the men so hard that they can't get out of bed. There are even more sturdy women who find different handsome men to serve themselves. Men can have 3 wives and 4 concubines, so why can't women have 3 husbands and 4 servants? The male superiority and female inferiority that has been passed down for thousands of years has changed because of the rise of women, and the world has begun to develop in the direction of the strong are respected. Regardless of gender, as long as you are strong, you can have as many opposite sexes as you want. Tao Xiaoyan stared at the changes in the world in amazement. If he wasn't surrounded by familiar people, he would have thought he had traveled through time again. Seeing the women flying in the sky with swords, Tao Xiaoyan thought he had traveled to the world of cultivation. Those women flying in the sky have their own unique style. Their facial features may not be the best looking, but after practicing, their skin becomes wider and more delicate than that of women who do not practice, and their figures are more slender than those of women who do not practice. The most important thing is their temperament. Women who practice have a kind of temperament that is ethereal and otherworldly. Even if ordinary women have beautiful facial features, when standing next to women who practice, the most eye-catching ones are women who practice. Although Tao Xiaoyan envied those women who practiced, he did not dare to provoke them. There was no way. Women who practiced were arrogant and would not be willing to serve the same husband as other women. He had many wives and concubines at home, so he was not qualified to provoke those women. Tao Xiaoyan was still a little relieved in his heart. The women in his family were all well behaved. Although they all practiced the woman's cultivation method, they did it only to stay young and stay by his side, not to become stronger or independent. You should know that the women in many of his colleagues' families kicked their colleagues after practicing and went to find a second spring. Tao Xiaoyan looked up at the sky again. What is God trying to do? Why should women be allowed to practice cultivation? Isn't it better to stay at home and be dependent on others like before? After sighing for a while, Tao Xiaoyan began to practice. Women have become more powerful. He can't waste time anymore. He has to be stronger than women. After practicing for a long time, a servant came to report to Tao Xiaoyan that someone had come from the palace. Tao Xiaoyan thought that someone was here to see the princess, but he didn't expect that it was the emperor who sent someone to ask him to enter the palace. Tao Xiaoyan was wondering all the way, what did the emperor want to see him for? Chapter 1084, The World of Scholars VI. Tao Xiaoyan left the palace in a daze. It turned out that the world was not what he saw. It turned out that there were many secrets and dangers in this world. It was not that there were no sub-sages in this world, but because those sub-sages were stationed at the border of the continent and fought against foreign races. Foreign races are cannibals. If they were allowed to break through the defense line and enter the inland, ordinary people would be miserable. Nowadays, the stable lives of many ordinary people in the continent were exchanged for the blood and lives of those heroes on the border. In fact, there are many great Confucian scholars on the continent, not just 12 as everyone thinks. These 12 are just staying in the interior of the continent to guard the world, to prevent the fish caught in the net from entering the interior of the continent, and they must immediately eliminate those fish caught in the net. The rest of the great Confucian scholars are also stationed at the border, and the number is not tens of thousands, but thousands. The history of the continent is tens of thousands of years, and there are many geniuses and excellent people during this period. Although they do not have Tao Xiao Iden's golden finger to cheat, their talents are there, so how can they not cultivate to the realm of great Confucian scholars or even sub-sages? Tao Xiao Iden returned to his house. Facing a group of wives and concubines who were all around him, he wanted to cry but had no tears. He just wanted to enjoy his life surrounded by beautiful women, and didn't want to fight on the battlefield. If he had known, he wouldn't have worked so hard to move the classics of the previous world, and wouldn't have practiced so hard. Unfortunately, he couldn't go now, because the conscription order had been issued. If he didn't go, the emperor would immediately turn against him and order him to be killed. The 12 great Confucian scholars on the mainland would also go out to deal with him. If these 12 great Confucian scholars failed, there was still the sub-sage. Cryo, oh. Tao Xiao Iden was crying, and Su Qingni welcomed a great Confucian scholar. What Tao Xiao Iden learned from the emperor, Su Qingni also heard from the great Confucian scholar. The great Confucian scholar came for only one purpose. Since the fairy island had powerful practitioners, he hoped that they could also go to the border to garrison, participate in the war with foreign races, and protect the mainland. Now that men and women are equal, women should also contribute to protecting the mainland and the people. Men should not be the only ones who fight and die and bleed and sacrifice. Su Qingni nodded and said that she would take a group of powerful female monks to the border battlefield. In those years, Su Qingni traveled all over the mainland, but she did not find the extremely yin land. I think the extremely yin land is at the border, right? Su Qingni took a dozen maids who followed her to practice at the beginning and went to the border under the leadership of the great scholar. There is a barrier between the border and the inland. Without a pass, don't even think about passing through this barrier. This is also the main reason why people in the mainland don't know the existence of the border. The powerful people on the border have already known the changes in the mainland, and they are very curious about the women who can match them. Su Qingni and her people became giant pandas when they came to the border, attracting waves of people to visit them. Su Qingni was too lazy to deal with it, and left all the social matters to Chunning. Some people felt that Su Qingni didn't give face, and wanted to teach Su Qingni a lesson by force. Su Qingni released her coercion, pressing those people to lie on the ground directly. Saint! Saint! Several sub-saints were so shocked that they smashed the items in their hands. If the pressure was stronger than theirs, what else could it be but the legendary saint? Everyone was surprised, happy and a little uncomfortable. They were happy that with the existence of a saint-level strong man, they could win more battles with aliens and be more secure. They were uncomfortable because this saint-level strongman was actually a woman, which made them, the grown men, feel embarrassed. What do you think the saint's name is? Tao Xiao Iden asked his companion. His companion did not notice Tao Xiao Iden's disbelief and complicated mood, and replied, I heard that her name is Su Qingni, from Fingidun City. Su Qingni from Fingidun City? Isn't that his cheap sister? Damn. This sister is so powerful. Even more awesome than him, a traverser with a golden finger. Could she be a traverser too? It is said that the cultivation method practiced by women was passed down from this person. Well, could she be a traverser from the world of cultivation? If so. Tao Xiao Iden shuddered violently. In the world of cultivation, the strong prey on the weak and people kill without blinking an eye. If this person really came from that world, he would definitely be a cruel person. I'd better not think about trying to establish a relationship with her. Who knows if she will recognize me as her brother? Will she hate me because of the things in her previous life and kill me with one hand? Although I have the strength of a great scholar, I can't compare with her saint-level strength at all. Tao Xiao Iden was frightened by his own imagination, and then he kept his relationship with Su Qingni secret, determined not to let Su Qingni find out. Su Qingni really didn't find out. She is very busy now. She found that the souls of the aliens in this world actually carried some fragments of Shebishi's true spirit. Those fragments are really very small, smaller than 1% of sesame. This is because the fragments of Shebishi's true spirit in this world were shattered and distributed in the souls of the aliens. If Su Qingni wants to take back this true spirit fragment, She can only kill those aliens and find the extremely small true spirit fragments and glue them together. This is a very trivial job, which makes Su Qingni so busy that she has no time to care about her original body's cheat brother. In this way, the two of them stayed in peace on the border battlefield for 100 years. During this 100 years, Tao Xiaoyun grew up in the battle. He was no longer the self-righteous time traveler, but truly integrated into this world. The blood and sacrifice of his companions made Tao Xiaoyun sober up from the euphoria after the time travel, and made him understand that he was living in the real world. He is no longer a male protagonist, he is just an ordinary member of the battlefield. He can only survive if he works hard. He can only protect his relatives behind him if he fights hard. When he came to the border, the princess wife gave birth to a daughter for him, and his other 2 concubines gave birth to 2 sons for him. Now the 3 children are of school age. The boy entered the academy to study, and the daughter worshipped a master to learn cultivation. They all live healthily and happily. All of this was earned by his desperate efforts on the battlefield. He is willing to continue to protect all this with his life. Thinking of this, Tao Xiaoyun's state of mind was improved. In the 10th year of the battlefield, Tao Xiaoyun advanced to the sub-sage. In the 100th year, Tao Xiaoyun became a saint. Since Confucius, the second saint in this world, Su Qingni, does not count. Her cultivation system is different from that of men. Everyone was very excited. Tao Xiaoyun's life gave them hope. Sainthood is not impossible to achieve. As long as they have the will and work hard, they can also become saints. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1085 Transition. Su Qingni has been in this world for 300 years, all of which she spent on the battlefield. Finally, she collected enough fragments and glued them into a pea-sized piece. The extremely yin land has been found, and the netherworld stone has been buried. Leaving the legend of ascension in this world, Su Qingni returned to the underworld. Su Qingni handed the pea-sized fragments to Lady Pingxin and told her about the alien souls. Lady Pingxin said she understood. This matter was a relatively simple matter for Lady Pingxin, the lord of the underworld. She set up a formation in the passage between the underworld and this world. When the souls of aliens came to the underworld through the passage, the fragments of the true spirit of the ancestors and their souls would be automatically stripped off and fly back to the body of Shebushi. After doing all this, Lady Pingxin took Su Qingni, who had come out of seclusion, to build the Great Wall again. This time, her card friends were the 9 Heavens Mysterious Woman and the New War Lady. The Queen Mother of the West traveled to other worlds to seek merit. The 4 people played cards while complaining about what they encountered after traveling through time. Well, although Pingxin Niangniang didn't need to travel through time, she could freely travel to many worlds, and occasionally she would transform into a mortal to play in those worlds. Niangniang Nuwa had just returned from a world recently. The composition of that world was very similar to the background setting of a computer game on Earth. There were descendants of Nuwa there. For the sake of the people of the world, they could not stay with their beloved men. Almost every descendant of Nuwa lived unhappy, and many ended in tragedy. After traveling through time, Niangniang Nuwa did not become her own descendant, but a girl who was a rival in love with the descendants of Nuwa. This girl had a bad fate. She quarreled with her rival in love, and the person she liked sided with her rival. The girl ran out alone in anger, was caught by the demons, and died miserably. Niangniang Nuwa came at the moment when the girl died, killed the demons, and returned to the girl's home. The girl's parents only had her as a child. The death of the girl would be a great blow to the parents, and it was not known whether the two would follow the girl. The bloodline and incense of this family were cut off. Nuwa Niangniang became a good girl to her parents in the girl's home and stopped running away, which made her parents very happy. You know, when the girl ran around with the person she liked, her parents were worried at home, fearing that something would happen to their daughter. The boy the girl liked came to see the girl once, but Nuwa Niangniang was not a girl, she no longer liked boys, and she would not snatch men from her descendants. She showed that she had no love for the man, and the boy left disappointed. Although this boy liked 2 girls at the same time and felt a little fickle, he was still a good person. Nuwa Niangniang sent blessings to the boy. The blessing of the great god can definitely bless the boy to turn danger into safety and live a healthy and happy life from then on. Niangniang also used her divine power to change the setting of the descendants of Nuwa in this world, so that they can be with their loved ones while taking into account the common people. She didn't understand. This world is quite peaceful. There will be no major disasters for decades. How can the descendants of Nuwa save the common people? Who to save? In this world, Nuwa married a girl according to the arrangement of her parents, and married an honest young man who liked the girl. She gave birth to 2 sons and 2 daughters to inherit the incense of the girl's family. In this world, she took out crops such as potatoes and sweet potatoes to feed most people in the world, so as to gain merit. Sure enough, potatoes and sweet potatoes are a powerful tool for crossing, which has earned me a lot of merit. Nuwa said as she played a 9-tube. Bang! Jiu Tianjuanu brought the 9-tube in front of her, and nodded to agree with Nuwa's words. I also gained merit in many worlds with these things. In those ancient worlds, food was the most precious. Jiu Tianjuanu talked about her last time she crossed over. Since she crossed over to the Qing dynasty with Su Qingni last time, Jiu Tianjuanu crossed over to the Qing dynasty again. But this time she crossed over to the Jia Qing period, and it had nothing to do with the royal family. Oh, no, it still has something to do with it. The husband of the original owner was a guard in the palace, and the girl her childhood sweetheart liked was also a member of the harem. This world seems to be a drama formed by the struggle of women in the harem. Qingni, whom her husband likes, is not the protagonist of the drama, but she is also one of the important supporting roles and stands on the side of the heroine. Qingmi doesn't like the emperor, so she naturally has no hostility towards the heroine and often helps her. The heroine also knows that Qingmi has someone she likes, so she helps Qingmi to have a tryst with the original owner's husband, making Qingmi pregnant with the original owner's husband's child. The heroine made another arrangement and put this child on the emperor's head. The heroine only gave birth to a daughter, which hurt her body and made her unable to give birth again. She wanted to raise Qingmi's child by her side and push Qingmi's child to the throne in the future. The heroine thought very well. She caught Qingmi and the child's handle, and the child would not dare to disobey her when he grew up. If the child dared, she could use this handle to abolish the child. The original body was very smart. She found out that her husband was unusual. She secretly eavesdropped on the conversation between her husband and her father-in-law and knew that her husband had an affair with the emperor's concubine and gave birth to a son. The husband conveyed the heroine's intention to the father-in-law, and the father-in-law was also very moved, wanting his own bloodline to sit in the supreme position. So the 2 fathers and sons discussed and decided to fully support the heroine and the husband's illegitimate son. The original body only thought that the father-in-law and husband were crazy. Aren't they afraid that the emperor would destroy their 9 clans after knowing the truth? The husband is wearing a green hat for the emperor. The emperor is the master of the entire palace. Can they hide what they did for a while? Can they hide it for a lifetime? When the emperor knows it, it will be the time for the whole family to bury the husband and his lover. Instead of dying miserably at that time, it is better to end your life now, at least you can get a beautiful funeral. So the original body committed suicide, and Jiu Tianjuanu came. Jiu Tianjuanu would not commit suicide, and of course she would not be implicated by her husband, so she left directly. Before leaving, she kindly wrote a letter to the emperor, pointing out that the emperor had a green hat on his head. Chapter 1086, Appointment as CEO. I don't know what world the Queen Mother of the West went to this time. Su Qingni said, I don't know if I will meet her next time I travel through time. Not long after she said this, the Queen Mother of the West traveled back and replaced Su Qingni at the poker table. It is certain that Su Qingni will not meet the Queen Mother of the West in the next world. She traveled through time again, and after accepting the memory, Su Qingni chuckled and said, the Queen Mother of this world is not the Queen Mother of the West. This world is a big world, which can accommodate 2/3 of Su Qingni's soul, probably because this world is a world where gods, demons and ghosts coexist. This world has the Heavenly Palace, the Great Lion Temple in the West, and the legend of the Monkey King. But Monkey King has now been suppressed under the 5 Elements Mountain, and Su Qingni has missed the good show of Monkey King making trouble in the Heavenly Palace. Su Qingni's original body was a little fairy in the Heavenly Palace, and her prototype was a magpie. She was a good friend of the 8th princess of the Heavenly Palace, the Weaver Girl. Some time ago, the Weaver Girl wanted to be immortal, and she followed her original body to play on Earth, and met a young and handsome cowherd. The weaver girl and the cowherd were in love, and the magpie fairy, as a good friend, naturally helped them. After the incident, the magpie fairy was naturally punished as an accomplice. Not only did the magpie fairy have to have her celestial bones extracted and turned back to her original form, but she also had to build a magpie bridge with other magpies on the Qixi festival, with the weaver girl stepping on her back to meet the cowherd. The original magpie was extremely sad, but she was unwilling to give up. Why didn't the weaver girl have her celestial bones extracted when they were both convicted? She could still meet the cowherd once a year. The cowherd also went to heaven and became a god because of the weaver girl. But she was just a helper, not the protagonist, but she was punished so severely. Just because the weaver girl is the daughter of the queen mother, isn't she just a little fairy with no background? The magpie lost control of her emotions and was full of demons, so she didn't survive the pain of stripping her celestial bones and directly lost her life. When the heavenly soldiers and generals saw that the magpie was dead, they reported it to the queen mother. The queen mother didn't care about the life or death of the magpie, and asked the heavenly soldiers to dispose of the magpie's body at will. The heavenly soldiers directly threw the magpie's body down from the heaven. Su Qingni came over at this time. She thought this was a good time. After leaving the heaven, she could go wherever she wanted. Su Qingni changed into human form and chose a direction to fly over at random. After flying for an unknown period of time, Su Qingni saw a mountain. The mountain was covered with green shades, and the whole mountain was covered with green, misty and lush. There were many pine trees, cypress trees, bamboos, plum trees, apricot trees, willow trees, and maple trees in the mountains. But more of them were thorns that covered the entire mountain. Su Qingni's heart moved, and she landed on the mountain from the air. The fairy came from afar. It is really an honor for Thorn Ridge. As soon as Su Qingni landed, someone appeared in front of her. It was an old man, wearing a horn scarf, wearing a light dress, holding a cane, and wearing straw shoes. The old man walked up to Su Qingni, bowed and said, "I am 18th Lord, and I am honored to meet you, the fairy." Su Qingni blinked and instantly understood the identity of the old man in front of her. 18th Lord, isn't that pine? This is a monster that has become a spirit from a pine tree. But the name of Thorn Ridge sounds familiar. My name is Su Qingni, and I think the scenery here is nice. I want to settle down here. I wonder if the master welcomes you. Su Qingni returned a half-bow and asked with a smile. Welcome, welcome, of course you welcome. 18th Lord responded very enthusiastically. Although the true identity of this person in front of her is unknown, she is definitely a fairy, and may even be a great god-level existence. If she can settle in Thorn Ridge, everyone will have someone to ask for advice in the future. The monsters on their silent ridge are all plant spirits, all of them grow wildly, and have no understanding of orthodox cultivation, but they all hope to cultivate into fairies. There was no way before, but now there is a fairy here. They can ask this person for advice, and the opportunity to become a fairy is right in front of them. 18th Master led the way, and Su Qingni followed behind him. Not long after walking, Su Qingni saw a stone tablet with 3 big characters on it, which read Jingthorn Ridge, and below it were 2 lines of 14 small characters, which read Jingthorn's climb for 800 miles. Since ancient times, there was a road few people walked on. It was getting more and more familiar. Su Qingni asked, 18th Master, wouldn't there be Guzigan, Linkhongzi, Fu Yansao and Naked Ghost on this Jingthorn Ridge? 18th Master widened his small eyes in surprise. You are indeed an immortal. Su Qingni finally understood where she was and couldn't help but chuckle. Do you know that you guys will have a great disaster in the near future? 18th Master jumped up in fright when he heard this, and looked at Su Qingni in fear. Su Qingni nodded at him, and 18th Master immediately knelt down to Su Qingni. Please save us, fairy. Su Qingni waved her hand and cast a spell to help 18th Master up. Don't worry, since I'm here, I won't let anything happen to you. Just consider it as my rent. Su Qingni said. When Monkey King and his 4 companions passed by Thorn Ridge, she restrained Shibagong and others and prevented them from seeing Tang Monk, so that they would not be seriously injured by the second brother. Shibagong was very grateful and his attitude towards Su Qingni became better. He led Su Qingni to a place where a group of fairies gathered, and then called friends and invited other fairies to come and pay a visit to Su Qingni. The other fairies had no objection to Su Qingni settling in Thorn Ridge, and welcomed Su Qingni to settle in Thorn Ridge as warmly as Shibagong. Their idea was the same as Shibagong's, hoping to get Su Qingni's guidance and ascend to become immortals as soon as possible. They were just plant fairies who were not good at fighting, and they didn't have much self-protection skills. They didn't dare to occupy the mountain like other animal-like monsters, so they wanted to become immortals and ascend to heaven. This way, they would be guaranteed. Unfortunately, there was no chance. Like in the original book, they invited Tang Sanzang to the night banquet and wanted to marry Xingxin to Tang Sanzang, all in order to get back at Tang Sanzang's thighs, so as to become immortals through this future bodhisattva. Unfortunately, Tang Sanzang's thighs were not so easy to hug, and they did not achieve their goal, but were injured by the second brother. Now that there is a thigh that is actively stretched out in front of them, how can they not hug it tightly? So, Su Qingni settled down in Thorn Ridge and became the current mountain king of Thorn Ridge. The fairies in Thorn Ridge are a group of good students who love to study. The day after Su Qingni settled down, they came to ask for advice. Su Qingni naturally did not hesitate to teach. These fairies have not harmed humans, have no evil karma, and will be more likely to become immortals than other fairies. In this way, Su Qingni lived a life of teaching students. Chapter 1087 Appointment of CEO Part 2. In the blink of an eye, 100 years have passed. Under the guidance of Su Qingni, the monsters of Thorn Ridge have improved their cultivation very quickly. Among them, 18th Man and Goose Higgin have already cultivated to become Earth Immortals. And a group of them also learned the origin of Su Qingni, the experience of the Magpie Fairy, and understood that the little fairy without background would have a bad life in the heaven. Instead of being bullied in the heaven, it is better to be a free and easy fairy in the world. As a result, the monsters of Thorn Ridge still yearn to become immortals, but no longer yearn for the heaven. After practicing, life is inevitably boring. A few of them yearn for the prosperity of the world, and made an appointment to go to the city where mortals live to gain experience. Their appearance was planned by Su Qingni, and they were dressed like ordinary mortals, and they were absolutely not allowed to show any monster characteristics. After all this, these monsters looked much fresher. As the leader, Su Qingni took these bumpkins to the town closest to Thorn Ridge. The group of bumpkins on the mountain had never been in the human world before, so when they arrived at the human town, they were like bumpkins, and everything they saw was very new. But they had no money to buy the things they liked. Su Qingni also stipulated that they could not use magic in front of people, let alone use the so-called turning stones into gold to deceive people. They couldn't buy the beloved items, and could only look at their boss eagerly. Su Qingni calmly led a group of monsters to the medicine shop and asked the monsters to take out the herbs that Su Qingni asked them to dig before leaving the mountain. The herbs were all very good herbs, old and fresh, and the medicine shop gave them a high price. Su Qingni distributed the money from the sale to the monsters and told them the value and price of gold, silver and copper coins. The monsters exclaimed, "It turns out that herbs are so valuable. Then they can sell herbs to make money in the future." Su Qingni despised it. Waste. Digging less herbs on the mountain can dry up the pond to catch fish, and they should maximize their value. Besides, if you want to make money, you don't have to sell herbs, there are other ways to make money. Everyone asked for advice. Is there any other way to make money? Su Qingni, I will teach you after we return to the mountain. The monsters had a great time in the city. With Su Qingni watching them from behind, they did not show any abnormality, and no one suspected that they were monsters. A group of monsters bought many things, ate delicious human food, and returned to the mountain contentedly. After a night's rest, all the monsters gathered outside Su Qingni's door, waiting for Su Qingni to teach them how to make money. Su Qingni sat on a chair outside her house, and the other monsters moved stones and sat in front of Su Qingni. Su Qingni glanced at everyone and spoke. Selling herbs is a way to make money. But if you only dig herbs to sell, over time, the herbs on the mountain will be dug up. Therefore, you can open up a medicine garden and grow herbs specifically. Su Qingni told the monsters about the prospects and precautions of growing herbs, and the monsters' eyes lit up when they heard it. Goose Higgins said, "Your Majesty, I am interested in growing herbs. Please leave this job to me. I guarantee to grow the best herbs and generate income for our Thorn Ridge." "Okay, then I'll trouble you, Goose Higgin." Su Qingni nodded. The reason why growing herbs was mentioned first was because it was the easiest for all the monsters. All the monsters are plant spirits, and they know more about the same kind of grass than humans. They grow herbs and guarantee a good harvest every year. Goose Higgin had a division of labor, and the other monsters stared at Su Qingni more intently. Su Qingni looked at the most beautiful one among the monsters and said, "Xingxin, have you eaten preserved fruits made by humans?" Xingxin nodded repeatedly. "Su Qingni, I have some recipes for making preserved fruits." Xingxin's eyes lit up. Her fruits are the best ingredients for making preserved fruits. Su Qingni really gave the recipe to Xingxin and put her in charge of this matter. "We have a lot of fruit in our mountains, and there are many kinds. Some are suitable for making preserved fruits, while others are not. But we can make canned fruits." Su Qingni continued. Ling Kongzi asked curiously, "My king, what is canned food?" "Canned food." Su Qingni explained to everyone what canned food is. "The jars used to make canned food lack a certain aesthetics, so we still need to make glass." Ling Kongzi asked again, "My king, what is glass?" Su Qingni, "Glass is very similar to colored glaze, but it is cheaper to make than colored glaze." Ling Kongzi's eyes sparkled. "My king, can you teach me how to make glass?" Su Qingni shook her head. "Glass needs to be fired at high temperatures. You are not suitable for this job." She scanned the monsters and landed on a little monster. The original body of this little monster was not a plant, but a little squirrel that became a spirit. Compared with other flowers, plants, and numbers, he has a higher tolerance for fire. "Let Song Shu be in charge of the burning of glass." "Huh? Me?" The little fairy's eyes sparkled, her face full of surprise and disbelief. Su Qingni nodded. "It's you." The little fairy was so happy that she quickly assured, "Don't worry, my king, I will study hard and make beautiful glass." Ling Kongzi looked disappointed, which was seen by Su Qingni. Su Qingni said, "Ling Kongzi, you are not needed for the burning of glass, but there is a business related to it that can be entrusted to you." Ling Kongzi immediately perked up and looked at Su Qingni with a burning gaze. "Su Qingni, glass can not only be used to make cans, but also mercury mirrors, which are 10 times clearer than bronze mirrors." After handing the mirror-making job to Ling Kongzi, Su Qingni looked at Fuai Unsao and said, "Fuai Unsao, I will teach you a method of making paper using bamboo as the material. In addition to bamboo, there are many other materials that can also be used to make paper." After teaching Fuai Unsao, Su Qingni also taught the naked ghost to make paintings with maple leaves, taught Dangui Tongzi to make osmanthus candy, and taught winter plums to make soap and scented soap. Shibagong, as the former boss of Thorn Ridge, was not assigned a job by Su Qingni, and he was anxious. He asked, "My king, what can I do?" Su Qingni smiled, "I want to open a grocery store in the mortal town to promote the brand of our Thorn Ridge products. You will be responsible for guarding that grocery store." Shibagong, "The grocery store is the top priority. Whether our Thorn Ridge products can be sold and make money depends entirely on you." Shibagong felt a great responsibility, as the economic burden of the entire Thorn Ridge was on his shoulders. Shibagong clenched his fist and said, "Don't worry, my king. I will do my best to live up to your trust." Su Qingni smiled and nodded, "I believe you." After that, Thorn Ridge began a vigorous economic development. Chapter 1088, Appointment as CEO III. A grocery store opened on the main street of Fengyin City. The things sold in it are all fine products. Some are cheap and some are expensive, but they are all available to everyone. For example, the soap is very convenient to use. A small piece can be used for a long time and can wash dirty clothes and hands clean. The price is also cheap, so ordinary people can afford it. As for the rich, they can buy more expensive soaps. The cleaning effect is the same as soap, but it will have a fragrance after washing. The fragrance is long-lasting, and rich men and women don't need to wear sachets. The preserved fruits sold in it are very delicious, but the canned fruits are more popular. Those canned fruits are packed in precious glass bottles, but the price is very cheap, as if the glass bottles are free. Not to mention that the canned fruits are delicious, just the glass bottles are worth buying. Moreover, the storage time of these canned fruits is still very long. Buy some canned fruits and eat them in winter. This means that people who don't have fresh fruits and vegetables to eat in winter don't have to eat only dried vegetables and meat. Because of the long storage time, merchants can transport them to faraway places for sale without worrying about them breaking on the road. The grocery store also sells a kind of mercury mirror that can reflect people in every detail, which is very popular among women. The grocery store also has. Anyway, the grocery store is full of good things, but the quantity is a bit small, only enough for the people in the city to buy. Those merchants who see business opportunities want to buy a lot of goods and ship them to other areas for sale, but they are gone. In the end, the merchants learned from the old shopkeeper that all the goods came from Thorn Ridge, which was made by the hidden masters living on Thorn Ridge. So the merchants rushed to Thorn Ridge, wanting to buy more and better goods from the hidden masters. Thorn Ridge is full of thorns, but there is still a mountain road to the mountain. These merchants finally came to the mountain after much hardship, met the masters among the masters, and sincerely pleaded, and finally got the permission of the masters to supply them with goods. The masters also pitied their difficulties in going up and down the mountain, and had people build a large supermarket at the foot of the mountain. All the goods will be sold in the supermarket, and the merchants only need to go to the supermarket to purchase goods, saving them the hard work and time of climbing the mountain. The merchants are very grateful to the masters of Thorn Ridge. As the goods of Thorn Ridge are sold to other places, the reputation of Thorn Ridge has spread, and more people come to Thorn Ridge. Not long after, a small town naturally formed at the foot of the mountain. My king, this is the report of last month. Shibagong handed the financial report to Su Qingni and began to report the business situation to her. Corn and sweet potatoes have the best sales. Those merchants heard that these two are high-yield food crops, and even the goods they originally planned to buy were not bought. All the money was used to buy corn and sweet potatoes. Shibagong was very excited. Unlike the sale of other goods, the sale of sweet potatoes and corn not only brought them money, but also brought them merit. Sweet potatoes and corn were found by the king with a Saker falcon monster across the vast ocean to another continent. After the planting and improvement of the plant monsters in Thorn Ridge, 1 acre can harvest thousands of kilograms. The king said that the greatest wish of ordinary people is to have enough food. By promoting these two crops, everyone can eat them and not be hungry, which is their merit. No demon does not know the benefits of merit, so they are naturally very positive about this matter. Sure enough, as the merchants brought sweet potatoes and corn to farther and farther places, the demons in Thorn Ridge all felt the merits from heaven and the benefits brought by merits. With merits to protect themselves, everyone will no longer be invaded by the inner demons when practicing, and practice becomes very smooth. Several demon friends have practiced to become earth immortals. Shibagong clenched his fists. He would work harder and harder to promote corn and sweet potatoes, so that everyone in the world can eat these two crops and no one in the world will be hungry. 7 beautiful girls came over with a smile. King, we have woven softer and more delicate cloth according to your words. Come and have a look. These 7 girls are not others, they are the 7 spider spirits of Pansy Cave. After Su Qingni asked Hai Dongking to find cotton seeds, she promoted cotton through Thorn Ridge, especially cotton woven cloth, which was very popular. The 7 spider spirits were very interested in weaving. After seeing the cotton cloth sold by the merchants, they ran to Thorn Ridge. Originally, they wanted to grab some cotton seeds and return to Pansy Cave, but they didn't expect that the fairies here were all so powerful that they were no match for them. They were caught and reformed through labor and were made responsible for weaving affairs on Thorn Ridge. They were unwilling at first, but later they were driven away and they didn't want to leave. There are very advanced textile machines on Thorn Ridge. The king also knows a lot of textile skills. He can even weave the colorful clouds in the sky and teach them how to weave the colorful clouds. It is said that the king used to be friends with a weaver girl in the sky, and the skills he taught them were all the fairies in the sky. Now he teaches them these fairies, which is really generous. In addition to being able to happily weave cloth in Thorn Ridge, there are many delicacies to eat, which are much more delicious than eating insects and people. Although they still prefer to eat insects, it also depends on how to eat them. The insects in Thorn Ridge are fried in oil, fried with peppers, roasted with seasonings, and made into sugar and wine snacks. Each one is extremely delicious. They are used to eating these delicious foods. How can they bear to eat insects again? They don't want the Silk Cave anymore, and they directly settle down in Thorn Ridge and become 7 technical employees under Su Qingni's Thorn Ridge group. The second brother found the spring where the spider spirits bathed, but he didn't see the beautiful goblins bathing. He only found a few sour fruits and took them back to fill Tang Sanzing's stomach. The group rested on this mountain for a night and then set off west again. The second brother left the scope of the Silk Cave, and he still felt a little uncomfortable. He always felt that something should have happened but didn't happen, which made people feel unsatisfied. Why is this? The second brother couldn't figure it out. On the other side, Su Qingni praised the research spirit of the spider spirits and asked them to continue to improve and weave more and better cloth. The spider spirits were like chicken blood, and they left excitedly holding the new cloth they spun. Su Qingni looked at their background and smiled with an ambiguous meaning. The spider spirits were not monsters with backgrounds, so according to their original fate, they were cannon fodder. Now, they don't bother Tang Sanzeng anymore, so their brothers won't be cannon fodder either, right? Chapter 1089, Appointment as CEO 4. The brother of the spider spirit was not cannon fodder. He was pulled to Thorn Ridge by his 7 sisters to help. The brother of the spider spirit has many hands and feet, and he is very good at doing chores. He soon became the best assistant of Thorn Ridge. Whoever has something to do will ask him to help. There is a reward for helping, and the rewards make the brother of the spider spirit very happy. The spider spirits are even busier. In addition to studying weaving, they also learn embroidery from embroiderers among mortals. One time, they went to the human world to select silk cloth and wanted to buy it back for research. They saw the finished products embroidered by the embroiderers and were immediately attracted by the exquisite embroidery. They devoted themselves to learning embroidery and had no time to care about anything else. Su Qingni packaged the embroidery made by the spider spirits and sold it at a sky-high price. Now many rich people are proud to grab the embroidery of the spider spirits, just like the rich people in the Red Mansion are proud to have a huan. The business of the Thorn Ridge Group is getting better and better. It is a real multinational group. The business has already reached the Tang dynasty thousands of miles away. As the CEO of the group, Su Qingni can be said to have reached the peak of her life. After a hard journey, the 4 people finally arrived at the territory of Thorn Ridge. Seeing the rolling mountains, the 4 people frowned. How long would it take to walk through such a long mountain? They were not worried that it would take a lot of time in the mountains, but there must be monsters in such mountains. Master, stay with us and don't walk around. Monkey King reminded Tang Seng. Tang Seng nodded. It was not a good experience to be caught by monsters all the time. The 4 people were mentally prepared and walked into the territory of Thorn Ridge. Not long after, the 4 people were confused. They looked at the prosperous and lively city stupidly, thinking that they had come to the capital of a certain country. It is said that among the countries they passed along the way, the capitals of many countries were not as prosperous and lively as the city in front of them. What's going on? How can there be such a lively city in the mountains? Tang Seng and his disciples were puzzled, and Monkey King was even more puzzled. His fiery eyes could see very clearly that more than half of the people in the city were monsters, but they lived in harmony with humans. Don't they eat people? Aren't humans afraid of monsters? Wukong, do you think we are hallucinating? Tang Seng asked Monkey King. Monkey King shook his head. Master, everything in front of us is real. Master, let's find an inn to stay and have a good meal. Second brother held his stomach, feeling empty inside. Okay. Tang Seng agreed. Hearing Monkey King say that this city is real, he breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that the people living in the city are all humans. In their minds, they don't think that monsters can build such a prosperous city. Monsters can only occupy a mountain and be the king of the mountain. Delicious shrimp wontons, would you like a bowl? Rice rolls, delicious rice rolls. Masters, would you like some rice rolls? We have vegetarian rice rolls. Hot and sour noodles, would you like a bowl? Fried dough sticks, fried pancakes, fried potatoes. Roasted corn, roasted eggplant, roasted sweet potatoes. Cold noodles with cold noodles, cold noodles with cold noodles. Second brother's saliva was flowing down when he heard this, although he had never heard of many of the names of these foods. The second brother couldn't help it and asked the vendor, "What is a roasted sweet potato?" The vendor was not afraid of the second brother's appearance at all. He took out a red thing from a large urn-shaped oven and handed it to the second brother. "Master, this is a roasted sweet potato. Please have some." The second brother frowned when he saw the black thing. "Can this thing be eaten?" The vendor chuckled. "You will know whether it can be eaten by breaking the sweet potato." The second brother broke the roasted sweet potato into 2 halves according to what the vendor said. The golden flesh was exposed, and the overbearing aroma rushed into the noses of the 4 masters and apprentices with a heat, making them sniff and swallow their saliva. The second brother had no doubt that the roasted sweet potato was inedible. He took half and took a bite. The sweet and soft taste immediately conquered the second brother. Delicious. So delicious. The second brother praised it while eating. The vendor chuckled and took out 3 more roasted sweet potatoes to give to Monkey Brother. Tang Seng took a bite of the roasted sweet potato and was also conquered. Especially after eating a roasted sweet potato, He felt that his empty stomach was filled with food, and he was actually 3 or 4 points full. The vendor treated 4 people to food for free. Of course, he could not give them big sweet potatoes, but gave them the smallest sweet potatoes. The big sweet potatoes had to be kept for sale. This sweet potato can actually fill your stomach. Tang Seng was surprised. The vendor said proudly, "Of course it can fill your stomach." Sweet potatoes, corn and potatoes can not only be eaten as vegetables, but also as staple food, so that people will not be hungry after eating them. This is the new grain variety that President Su of the Thorn Ridge Group specially sent people to find overseas. Each mu can produce thousands of caddies. Since the new grain variety was planted, people in our country will no longer be hungry. Thousands of caddies of production. Tang Seng took a breath. Although he was devoted to Buddhism, he still understood some people's livelihood. As far as he knew, the best fields nowadays can only produce about 3 dan per mu. This 1,000 caddies per mu is 3 times the 3 dan. It would be great if the people of the Tang dynasty could also grow these 3 crops. Tang Seng sighed. The vendor smiled and said, "Master, don't worry. The merchants who come here to buy goods have already spread these 3 kinds of grains. I think they have reached the Tang dynasty now. The people of the Tang dynasty can also grow these 3 crops." "That's great." Tang Seng chanted Amitabha and said, "This is a great merit for the lives of all people." The vendor said, "President Su also said so the grain seeds are not expensive, and ordinary people can afford them." President Su said that he wanted to let everyone in the world have enough food, whether it is a flood or a drought, the people will have a surplus of food to eat. Amitabha, President Su is really a kind man. Monkey King raised his eyebrows. This President Su should also be a monster, but a good monster. That's good. A good monster should not want to eat Tang Seng's flesh, and should not eat people, otherwise there would be no monsters and humans living together in the city. The 4 masters and apprentices were full before they even reached the inn. The street vendors enthusiastically donated them food. The food was something they had never heard of or seen before, but it was all very delicious. The second brother didn't want to leave after eating these delicacies that he couldn't eat anywhere else. The second brother was suffering. After leaving Thorn Ridge, his mouth and stomach would suffer. After eating good food, how could he eat other food? The white and plump steamed buns didn't seem so delicious. Chapter 1090, CEO 5. What is that thing? Monkey Brother asked the vendor, pointing at the passers-by who were passing by them quickly and the strange thing under him. The strange thing was made of wood and had 2 wheels. People sat on it and pedaled it continuously, and the strange thing took people forward quickly, and the speed was not slow. "Oh, that's a bicycle." The vendor replied, "This is also developed by President Su. Ordinary people can ride bicycles quickly and conveniently." After that, he boasted, President Su not only developed bicycles, but also tricycles, which can not only travel, but also carry a lot of goods. President Su also developed many items that are beneficial to our people, such as the latest spinning machines and looms, as well as the latest agricultural tools, which make everyone's life much more convenient. Is this President Su really that powerful? The second brother didn't believe it. President Su is the most powerful. The vendor admired Su Qingni from the bottom of his heart. The 4 of them were very curious about this President Su. The 4 people who went to the pilgrimage found an inn. The innkeeper was very enthusiastic. He entertained them and did not charge them for accommodation. He also gave them delicious vegetarian food for every meal. Especially the vegetarian banquet. It looked like meat and tasted like meat, but it was all made of vegetarian ingredients. Even Monkey King, second brother and Monkshak, who had eaten the banquet in the heavenly palace, felt that this vegetarian banquet was better. The people here live very happily. Tang Seng said with emotion, "This President Su is a capable person." Second brother nodded in agreement, "Better than the kings of many countries we met before." Tang Seng said, "Why don't we go and pay a visit to President Su?" "Let's not do it." Monkey King didn't want to get involved. What if the monster knew Tang Seng's identity and suddenly wanted to taste Tang Seng's meat? Tang Seng, since we are in someone's territory, how can we not pay a visit to the host? Otherwise, it would be too rude. Second brother supported Tang Seng's decision very much. He thought that the food in President Su's house should be more delicious, right? Mongshan obeyed his master in everything, so with 2 disciples supporting him and 1 opposing him, Tang Seng asked the innkeeper how to contact Su Qingni and submitted a request for a meeting. "Tang Sanzang wants to see me." Su Qingni was surprised. Shi Bagong nodded, his eyes shining. Your Majesty, I heard that Tang Sanzang is the reincarnation of Jin Chanzi and the disciple of Fo Zed. If we make friends with Tang Sanzang, we may be able to establish a relationship with Lingshan. Su Qingni, why? You don't want to go to heaven, so you want to go to Lingshan. Shi Bagong hurriedly denied, I only belong to our Thorn Ridge and I won't go anywhere. But your Majesty, Lingshan is very rich, and the temples there are paved with gold bricks. Su Qingni understood at once, you want to do business in Lingshan. Shi Bagong laughed. Su Qingni gave him a thumbs up. 18th Master continued to laugh. The potatoes, sweet potatoes and corn from Thorn Ridge should be popular there, right? The monks there often burn incense and change clothes to keep their bodies and minds clean. I think soap will be very useful to them. And our cotton cloth and mirror. 18th Master talked a lot, which made Su Qingni very excited. Then the business with Lingshan is handed over to you. Su Qingni entrusted 18th Master with an important task. 18th Master straightened his chest. Don't worry, my king, I will definitely handle this matter properly. Then about meeting Tang Sanzang. Then meet him. The 4 people who went to the pilgrimage soon got the answer and were led to the highest peak of Thorn Ridge by a cute little boy. The peak was different from what the 4 people imagined. It was not the cave that Monkey King thought of, nor the house that Tang Sanzang thought of like the town below the mountain, but some bamboo houses with stilts. With a quiet scenery around, it looked like the place where the hermits lived. The little boy brought the 4 people into a bamboo building, served them tea and snacks, and pushed them out of the door. After a while, footsteps were heard, and a young and beautiful woman came in with an old man. I am very happy to have distinguished guests. The woman smiled and saluted the 4 people. Monkey King opened his eyes wide and looked at the woman in front of him, with an incredible expression on his face. His fire eyes and golden pupils failed to work, and he could not see through the true body of the woman in front of him. But he saw the true body of the old man next to her at a glance, which was an old pine tree. What does this mean? It means that the woman is very powerful, more powerful than him, and much more powerful, so he can't see the true body of this woman. The feeling of facing this woman is just like facing the Buddha and Bodhi patriarch at the beginning, which brings him great pressure. Who is this powerful person? Monkey King racked his brains and couldn't think of any of the gods and Buddhas he had seen who matched the identity of the woman in front of him. Su Qingni blinked at Monkey King, which frightened him and made Su Qingni secretly happy. Su Qingni looked at the second brother again. He still had a simple and honest appearance, but Su Qingni saw the dark nature of the second brother at a glance, just like the second brother she met in a certain world before. Su Qingni and Tang Sanzang had no topics to talk about, so the two kept talking about Buddhism, which made Tang Sanzang very happy and thought he had met a soulmate. During this period, Goose Higging and other monsters secretly came to watch Tang Sanzang, and Xingxin also came, but this girl is now devoted to her career and has no idea of marrying and hugging thighs. She just thinks Tang Sanzang is very good looking, a little white face, and has no other feelings. After seeing the people, she left. The spider spirit also came to watch for a while, and then hurried back to continue studying embroidery. The second brother looked at their backs thoughtfully as they left. After a friendly meeting with the 4 people who went to the pilgrimage, the 4 set off to leave Thorn Ridge. As a hospitable host, Su Qingni gave the 5 people a lot of farewell gifts. Preserved fruits, dried fruits, canned fruits, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, biscuits, bread, instant noodles, all placed on a tricycle. The tricycle was also given to the 4 people. The second brother rode on it very happily, carrying a full basket of food, following the white dragon horse, and throwing snacks into his mouth. President Su is such a good person. Monkey King chuckled, anyone who gives you food is a good person. The second brother gave Monkey King a contemptuous look, you don't understand, President Su is really a good person who has saved many people and monsters. Monkey King continued to chuckle, I don't understand, I only know that President Su is not a human. What? President Su is not a human. Tang Sang was surprised. Monkey King, most of the people in Thorn City are not human. The vendor who gave us sweet potatoes is a rabbit monster. Tang Sanzang. Subvert your imagination. Chapter 1091, CEOVI. The Thorn Ridge group is getting bigger and bigger, and more monsters come here to join Su Qingni and join the group. Not all monsters are like those who want to eat people on the journey to the west, and not all monsters will occupy the mountains as kings. Monsters are not all powerful, There are many weak monsters. Monsters do not all like to fight and kill recklessly, and there are many monsters who want to live a stable life. Many monsters only ask for a guarantee, and the Thorn Ridge Group can give them a guarantee. As long as you abide by the rules and regulations of the Thorn Ridge Group, you can receive the protection of the group, get a job, and live a stable life. This makes many monsters who yearn for the prosperity of the world like it very much. The matter of obtaining scriptures has been completed, Monkey King has become a Buddha, and all participants on the journey to the west have obtained merits from heaven according to their respective behaviors. In addition to the 5 people who obtain the most merits, Pingxin is naturally the one who obtained the most merits. The heavenly court obtained some merits, and the monsters with backstage on the road also obtained corresponding merits. Su Qingni did not let the monsters under his command participate in the matter of obtaining scriptures, nor did he let them contact Monkey King and others, but he did not expect to obtain merits. Su Qingni thought about it and felt that it should be earned from the food on the tricycle. Compared with the merits that Thorn Ridge had obtained on its own, these merits were simply not worth mentioning. High-yield crops were sold to many countries, allowing the people to basically solve the problem of food, and the merits obtained were huge. Not to mention that Su Qingni later asked people to make cement and rubber and other things that benefit the country and the people, and improved textile machines and farm tools. Each of these can help Thorn Ridge gain merits. A large amount of merits gathered in Thorn Ridge, which brought great benefits to the monsters here. The Heavenly Court and Pingxin also noticed the Thorn Ridge. Both sides wanted to make Thorn Ridge their own, so as to obtain the merits of Thorn Ridge. Unfortunately, Su Qingni didn't want to join any side at all, and was only willing to cooperate with him in business and remain independent. It's not that the two sides didn't think about it, but Thorn Ridge was shrouded in the golden light of merit. If they made a move on Thorn Ridge, they would probably get the merits back. The two sides could only suppress their desire to force themselves, make friends with Thorn Ridge, and cooperate with Thorn Ridge. Magpie? Are you Magpie? Su Qingni heard a familiar voice and turned to look over. It was indeed the Weaver Girl. She remembered that the Heavenly Court sent some gods to Thorn Ridge to study, and the Weaver Girl was among them. Was she here to learn embroidery from the Spider Spirit? Is Magpie really you? You are not dead, that's great. The Weaver Girl rushed over and stretched out her hand with tears in her eyes to hold Su Qingni's sleeve. The Weaver Girl and the Magpie should really be very good friends. Although the Magpie was punished like that because of the Weaver Girl, it was the Queen Mother who really gave the order. The Weaver Girl did not intend to harm the Magpie. She was just unable to save the Magpie. She should have been feeling guilty for her current behavior. However, even though the Weaver Girl was very sad, Su Qingni did not admit her identity to comfort her. The Magpie that the Weaver Girl knew had died long ago and has now been reincarnated. You recognized the wrong person. Su Qingni pulled back her sleeve. I'm not mistaken, you are Zyke. Zhiqinu's tears flowed even more violently. Su Qingni said lightly, I'm not Zyke. I just look similar. Zhiqinu didn't believe Su Qingni's words, and determined that she was Zyke, and still pestered Su Qingni. Su Qingni simply released her own pressure. The huge pressure made Zhiqinu pale. This pressure, this strength. Even her parents don't have such pressure. The woman in front of her is actually stronger than the Lord of Heaven, so she is indeed not Zyke. Zyke is just a small fairy in heaven, and her strength is not even as good as hers. Yes, I'm sorry, I recognized the wrong person. Zhiqinu bowed her head and apologized. It's okay. Su Qingni said, you are the Weaver Girl, right? I've heard about your story. Your friend Zyke has died, and I think she has been reincarnated now. You should let it go. I can't let it go. The Weaver Girl was sad. I am sorry to Zyke, causing her to lose her life. I owe her an apology. I want to tell her in person, but there is no chance. Then you can find her reincarnation and tell her in person. Su Qingni said. This kind of thing is not difficult for immortals, and it is even easier if they have a good relationship with a king of hell in the underworld. The Weaver Girl said ashamedly, my magic power is very low. I can't do anything except weaving, and I can't trace where the Magpie reincarnated. Su Qingni felt that the original owner still had sisterly feelings for the Weaver Girl, and sighed in her heart, saying, I can help you. The Weaver Girl looked up suddenly, her eyes full of surprise and gratitude. Thank you, immortal, thank you. Su Qingni, I am not an immortal. The Weaver Girl, thank you, your majesty. Su Qingni wanted to trace a person's past and present lives, which was easier than other immortals. The Weaver girl didn't see how Su Qingni cast the spell, and she heard Su Qingni say that she found it. Su Qingni took the Weaver girl to find the reincarnation of the magpie. The two came to the Tang dynasty in the east. Now the emperor of the Tang dynasty has changed several times. The one sitting on the dragon throne now is Tang Xuanzong Li Longji. It is said that Yang Yuhun has just been taken into the palace by him. When Su Qingni passed Chang'an, she went to the palace to take a look at the two. Although Emperor Xuanzong of Tang was middle-aged, his figure and face were well maintained. He looked only about 30 years old and quite masculine. Yang Yifei was very beautiful, but not fat. She had a big frame and looked plump, but in fact, her body proportions were very good. Su Qingni couldn't tell whether the two had true feelings, but they did get along like ordinary couples. No wonder Emperor Xuanzong of Tang liked Yang Yuhun so much. There are so many beauties. Although Yang Yuhun is beautiful, she is not without equal to her. Li Longji was used to beauty, but he loved Yang Yuhun so much, mainly because of Yang Yuhun's attitude. Yang Yuhun was very smart and knew that the emperor who is now high above had everything, but lacked the feelings of ordinary couples. She started from this point and immediately put Li Longji's heart on her. Leaving Chang'an, Su Qingni brought the Weaver girl to Hangzhou and came to the West Lake. Here, they saw a little snake that had just opened its spiritual wisdom. The little snake was green and cute, and people liked it very much. A fairy who looked like a boy smiled as he looked at it and was about to pick up the little snake for a closer look. The sudden appearance of the Weaver girl and Su Qingni made the fairy boy withdraw his hand in a hurry. The fairy boy recognized the Weaver girl, bowed to her, and left in a hurry. The Weaver girl didn't care about the fairy boy at all, and just stared at the little green snake in front of her. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1092, Appointment as CEO 7. The little green snake in front of her was the reincarnation of the magpie. The Weaver girl carefully held the little green snake in her palm, and looking at the little green snake's ignorant eyes, tears fell. Su Qingni transformed into a small boat, floating on the waves of the West Lake, leaving the Weaver girl and the little green snake to continue their fate. Needless to say, the beauty of the West Lake is known to everyone. Today's West Lake is more beautiful than the scenery 1,000 years later. Su Qingni admired it and felt very comfortable. After 2 hours, the Weaver girl flew to the boat with the little green snake and bowed to thank Su Qingni. The little green snake has no memory of her previous life, but she naturally feels close to the Weaver girl and gets along well with her. The Weaver girl wants the little green snake to practice to become an immortal again, so most of the time she teaches the little green snake how to practice and points out what it needs to pay attention to in practice. After the little green snake opened its spiritual wisdom, it instinctively absorbed the spiritual energy and practiced Yuhua without any advanced skills. This kind of cultivation speed will be very slow. The little green snake will have to cultivate for at least hundreds of years before it can transform. But with a cultivation method, the little green snake will be able to transform into human form in just a few years. The little green snake knew that the opportunity was rare, so it carefully memorized the method and the instructions of the Weaver girl. It told the Weaver girl that the Weaver girl was a fairy in heaven, and it was impossible for it to take a little goblin that had not yet transformed to heaven. It could only rely on itself in the future. However, it did not expect that the Weaver girl could not take it to heaven, but entrusted it to the big man who came with her. The Weaver girl expressed her idea of letting the little green snake go to the Thorn Ridge to practice, and Su Qingni agreed indifferently. There are many monsters on the Thorn Ridge, and it doesn't matter if there is one more now. The Weaver girl was very happy. She was really afraid that the little green snake would stay in the West Lake, in case it was taken away by a monk with profound Taoism or harmed by other powerful monsters. Thorn Ridge is good, it is simply a holy place for monsters. When the little green snake went there, not only was her life guaranteed, but she could also ask for advice from the seniors in the demon world at any time. This would make the little green snake's future cultivation path very smooth. Zhaoqing, thank President Su quickly. The Weaver girl brought the little green snake to Su Qingni. The little green snake nodded its head to Su Qingni. It could not feel the slightest fairy spirit on the woman in front of it, but its intuition told it that this woman was very powerful, even more powerful than the weaver girl, and it must not make this person unhappy. Su Qingni looked at the little green snake, and a hint of interest rose in her eyes. Is its name Zhaoqing? The weaver girl nodded. It's green all over, so I call it Zhaoqing. It's a very vivid name. Su Qingni smiled. Zhaoqing in the West Lake in Hangzhou. The weaver girl brought Zhaoqing to the Thorn Ridge and entrusted it to the 7 spider spirits. After all, the 7 spider spirits were the ones she was most familiar with in the Thorn Ridge. She did not ask them to take care of the little green snake like a nanny. After all, the spider spirits were usually very busy, and they only needed to pay attention to it occasionally. Anyway, there was no danger in the Thorn Ridge. The little green snake was very happy in Thorn Ridge. There were demon seniors everywhere, and each of them had a high level of cultivation. It had many things it didn't understand, so it could ask the seniors and get the answers immediately. This made its cultivation very smooth. When it was tired of practicing, it could go outside for a walk. The prosperity here was better than Hangzhou, and the people here were not afraid of demons. Humans and demons lived in harmony, and no one would call for it to be beaten after knowing it was a demon. This place was a paradise for a little demon like it. The little green snake lived happily in Thorn Ridge. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed, and the little green snake had cultivated into human form. In these 30 years, in addition to practicing hard every day, Zhaoqing also went to Thorn Ridge School to learn skills. The little demon was very talented in doing business. Later, he entered a special business school to study, and graduated with the best grades to join the Thorn Ridge group. He started as a small employee and worked his way up. Now he is one of the executives. In the meeting room of the Thorn Ridge group, the executives reported their work to CEO President Su. Su Qingni sat in a big chair, looking more and more like a modern president. After the subordinates made a report, it was Zhaoqing's turn. Zhaoqing looked about 18 or 19 years old, with a beautiful appearance. She wore a green dress and looked like a bamboo. Because of her appearance, Su Qingni liked her very much and took better care of Zhaoqing than the 7 spider spirits. Under Su Qingni's guidance, Zhaoqing's cultivation became smoother. In addition, the weaver girl sent some fairy fruits from the sky. Zhaoqing became a terrestrial fairy in just 200 years. We plan to open a branch in Suzhou and Hangzhou. In the early stage, we will open a grocery store to open up the market first. Zhaoqing talked freely, looking like a successful professional woman. After listening to Zhaoqing's report, Su Qingni nodded and agreed to their plan, and Zhaoqing would go to Suzhou and Hangzhou as the manager of the branch to carry out preliminary work. Not long after, there was a Thorn Ridge grocery store on the edge of the West Lake, which sold a wide variety of things, all of which were exquisite. Hundreds of years later, the things developed by Thorn Ridge had long been sold to the East, and many craftsmen had to imitate the goods of Thorn Ridge to make similar things. However, the degree of refinement was still not as good as those produced in Thorn Ridge. The world recognizes the Thorn Ridge brand the most. As long as they see something from Thorn Ridge, they will want to buy it. Therefore, the grocery store has been doing very well as soon as it opened. Zhaoqing was so busy that she wished she was a centipede spirit with 1,000 hands. In the end, she was too busy to handle it, so Zhaoqing took in 5 little ghosts to help her run the store, and then she had some free time. After the free time, Zhaoqing had time to go out for a stroll. West Lake in Hangzhou is her hometown, but she has never really appreciated the scenery here. When she was a little snake, she didn't have the mind to appreciate the scenery. Zhaoqing was walking by the West Lake, and suddenly she felt a demonic aura flying up to the sky. After a while, dark clouds gathered in the sky and it started to rain. Which bold monster is this, who actually casts magic directly in Hangzhou City? Don't you know the monster code? If this is seen by the Taoists and Buddhists, they must take this monster in. For the sake of this monster, Zhaoqing directly dispersed the dark clouds and the demonic aura, and the rain stopped after just a few drops. The scholar who was holding his head and rushing forward stopped. The woman in white looked at Zhaoqing angrily and sent an invisible attack towards Zhaoqing. Zhaoqing was also angry. You released magic in the world at will, and you wanted to hit me who was kind-hearted. Isn't that too much? Exclamation mark. Zhaoqing was not a good-tempered person. How could she not fight back when someone hit her? An invisible attack was sent out. Then, 2 beautiful young girls, one in white and one in blue, disappeared from the shore of West Lake, and two fighting figures appeared in the air. Chapter 1093 Appointment of CEO 8. Zhao King and Bai Niangzi did not know each other until they fought. Zhao King is now very powerful and is on par with Bai Niangzi. It is impossible for Bai Niangzi to defeat Zhao King and take her as a maid. However, the two became good friends and sisters. Bai Niangzi is a homegirl who has been practicing in Qingchang Mountain for hundreds of years. Naturally, she does not know that there is a Thorn Ridge group in the Three Realms. Not only that, Bai Niangzi is not familiar with the rules of the human world and thinks that her magic power can solve all problems. Zhao King quickly stopped Bai Niangzi and then popularized the rules and common sense of the goblins lives in the human world. Bai Niangzi was shocked. If she really acted according to her previous ideas, would she be found by Buddhism and Taoism before she found a benefactor? Zhao King comforted Bai Niangzi and recruited her to work in the grocery store. There is a section in the grocery store that sells medicinal materials. Because of the good quality, most people from the drugstores in Hangzhou City come to the grocery store to buy medicinal materials. Su Xian followed his master to the grocery store to buy medicinal materials. When he saw the person in charge, Bai Niangzi, he was shocked and fell in love at first sight. After returning home, he lost his appetite and made Sister Su very worried. After some questioning, she learned that her brother had someone he liked. Sister Su was very happy and immediately went to find out the information about Bai Niangzi. Zhao King made Bai Niangzi's identity very perfect, which was much more reliable than any official lady who came to seek refuge. Sister Su was very satisfied with Bai Niangzi, so she sent a matchmaker to the grocery store to propose marriage. Zhao King bought a dowry for Bai Niangzi, and after the 3 books and 6 ceremonies were completed, she married Bai Niangzi to Su Xian. After marriage, the two opened their own medicine shop. With a grocery store as a backing, no one dared to embarrass Su Xian and Bai Niangzi. Fat He appeared when Bai Niangzi was pregnant. After he knew that Bai Niangzi was related to the grocery store, he turned around and left. There was no way, he couldn't afford to offend the employees of the grocery store. This grocery store couldn't even afford to offend Lingshan, let alone him who hadn't achieved success yet. Fat He could only let go of his hatred for Bai Niangzi and return to Jinshan Temple to retreat, wanting to out of sight and out of mind. Unexpectedly, this move broke his inner demon. On the day when Bai Niangzi's child was born, Fat He ascended to heaven. Without the flooding of Jinshan Temple, Bai Niangzi lived with Su Xian for 100 years. 100 years later, Bai Niangzi sent Su Xian away and followed Zhao King to Thorn Ridge. Thorn Ridge does not raise idle monsters. After Bai Niangzi came, she threw herself into busy work and gradually forgot her feelings for Su Xian. Thousands of years later, the Thorn Ridge group spread all over the world, and even the areas ruled by Western gods had branches of the Thorn Ridge group. Western gods are not as visionary as the gods in Lingshan and the Heavenly Palace. Those gods are arrogant and have no vision. They only see the immediate interests and don't know who can be provoked and who can't be provoked. These gods coveted the good things of Thorn Ridge Company and wanted to rob them, but they suffered a great loss. The employees who went to the west to open up branches were all selected by Su Qingni, and they were all fairies who had followed Su Qingni for a long time. No, they can't be called fairies. Now they have all become immortals through cultivation, but they just haven't reported to the Heavenly Palace. The Western gods thought that they could easily capture the enemy by sending out some mortals who had been given power by them, but those people were defeated by Zhao King alone. The Western gods were furious and sent out subordinate gods, but they were defeated by Zhao King and by Niangzi again. The Western gods went out and fought evenly with the old employees of the company. More Western gods joined the war to deal with the foreign monks together. After the other demons and immortals in Thorn Ridge learned about the situation in the west, they all put down their work and rushed to join the battle. The battle between the gods of the east and the west began. Lingshan and Heaven did not join the war. They wanted to see how strong Thorn Ridge was. If Thorn Ridge was defeated by the Western gods, they might be able to take Thorn Ridge into their own hands. However, the strength of Thorn Ridge shocked the gods of the east and the west. Especially when the gods on Mount Olympus took action, they were directly beaten back by the CEO of Thorn Ridge. Everyone was shocked to find out how powerful Thorn Ridge was. The gods in the west stopped fighting and retreated to Mount Olympus, no longer daring to covet Thorn Ridge. Thorn Ridge has gained a firm foothold in the west, and the two major forces in the east have a better attitude towards Thorn Ridge. Therefore, Su Qingni received the invitation letter from the Queen Mother to the Peach Banquet for the first time. Su Qingni went to Yaoqi leisurely, and the Queen Mother was surprised to see Su Qingni's appearance. But then she returned to normal. Su Qingni is not the magpie fairy. The Queen Mother picked up the wine jar in front of her and smiled at Su Qingni. President Su, a toast to you. Su Qingni also raised her glass. Thank you, Queen Mother. The Queen Mother drank the fairy wine in the cup together, and many questions were in this glass of wine. Su Qingni has stayed in this world for the longest time and witnessed another change in history. Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming and Qing dynasties have changed, but what remains unchanged is that the Thorn Ridge group still stands tall until modern times. After the emergence of technology, the gods in this world began to disappear, and all entered the dimension space jointly opened up by the gods. The traces of gods are becoming increasingly rare, and even the fairies are almost extinct. However, the employees of Thorn Ridge still stay in the mortal world. They have changed their identities one by one and integrated into modern society. Zhao King and Bai Niangzi are watching TV in the company's lounge, where the legend of the new white snake is playing. Seeing the indecisive Su Xian in the TV, Zhao King curled her lips and said, "If Su Xian is really like this, will you still be his wife, sister?" Bai Niangzi looked at Bai Suzhen on TV, shook her head, and said uncertainly, "I don't know either." She felt that Bai Suzhen in the TV series was very similar to herself. If the Zhao King she met at the beginning was the Zhao King in the TV series, with the ignorance of the two monsters about the human world, would the things like in the TV series really happen? But fortunately, she met Zhao King from Thorn Ridge. Bai Niangzi thought, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Guz Higang and Shibagong were watching the TV series Journey to the West. After seeing the group being beaten back to their original form by the second brother, they all broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, they have the king, who restrains them from having any ideas about attacking Tang Monk. The great calamity that the king mentioned at the beginning should happen at this time. The spider spirits have no time to watch TV. They are sitting on a flight to Milan, France, to attend the Fashion Week. Now they are world-renowned fabric makers and fashion designers, and the clothes they make are sought after by celebrities and stars. Su Qingni has decided to step down. Who will be given the position of CEO? To Shibagong or to Zhao King? This is a question. Chapter 1094, The Old Lady in the Mountain Village. Su Qingni got up at dawn. She practiced a set of health-preserving boxing first, and then went into the kitchen to make breakfast. The kitchen was an old-fashioned stove that burned wood. The village was in the mountains, and the mountain road was difficult to walk on. It was not easy to go down the mountain, so the village was very poor. Nowadays, there is only electricity, and there is no internet. However, the village chief also said that the internet would be available by the end of the year, and the elderly in the village would be able to video chat with their children who were working outside through the internet. The original owner's family was not poor. After all, her two children would send money back every month. This money was a huge sum of money in the eyes of the people in the village. Even if Su Qingni went down the mountain to live in the town, the money would allow her to live a rich life. The original owner did not spend the money lavishly, but only spent a small part of it. Most of the money was saved for the two children, thinking of returning it to the two children in the future. She was worried that the two children would not live well outside, but because she did not go online, she did not know that one of her daughters was a star and could get 1,000,000 yuan in compensation for just taking an advertisement. But this daughter only gave her 20,000 yuan a year for retirement. On average, it was less than 2,000 yuan a month. The original owner didn't know that his other son was also a rich man. The original owner only knew that his son got married to a girl in the city. The original owner knew that the girl's family was rich, but he didn't know how rich his daughter-in-law's family was. The son didn't take the original owner to the city to attend the wedding, fearing that she would embarrass him. Therefore, the original owner didn't see how grand his son's wedding was. The original owner's son was a Phoenix man, who married the daughter of a very rich family. However, in addition to the daughter, this family also had a son, and the company would not be handed over to the daughter, and the original owner's son could not occupy the property of his wife's family. But the wife's dowry was a lot. In addition to the house, car, shop and company shares, the wife's family also gave her a lot of valuable jewelry and even a yacht. The original owner's son married his wife and stepped into the ranks of billionaires. The original owner's son treated his father-in-law and mother-in-law as his own parents and was filial to them. He was like a son-in-law who came to live with someone else and forgot his mother in his hometown. Only at the end of each year would she send money back to her old mother. He sent more money than her sister, 50,000 yuan. But as a mother, is she greedy for their money? She just wanted to see her children and live with them. Unfortunately, neither of her children would satisfy her. The original body was a vulgar country old woman with no culture that they despised. They were afraid that bringing her to their side would embarrass them. The original owner knew all this vaguely. She felt bad, but she couldn't let go of her 2 children when she left, so she asked Su Qingni to help them when they needed it. The original owner didn't dare to ask for too much. In addition to this wish, she just wanted the original owner to take good care of her grandson. The original owner actually had 3 children. The eldest son was an honest child who cared about his mother's hard work and went out to work after graduating from junior high school. Working in the mountains doesn't make much money every year. The younger son was able to get out of the mountains and enter a key university, all thanks to the money earned by the eldest son. Unfortunately, the eldest son died in an accident, and the daughter-in-law took the eldest son's compensation and ran away with her grandson, who had not yet started elementary school. The original owner took care of her grandson. After her daughter and youngest son left the mountains, she and her grandson depended on each other for survival and had a very good relationship. The one that the original owner was most reluctant to leave was her grandson Tong Ruang. The original owner asked Su Qingni to support Tong Ruang until he graduated from college. She hoped that her eldest grandson could get into a good school like her youngest son and leave the mountains to live a rich life, even if she would never come back after leaving like her youngest son. She hoped that her eldest grandson would live a good life and did not want her eldest grandson to work as hard as his father and die at a young age. Su Qingni agreed to this simple country woman. How could she refuse such a simple wish? Su Qingni added 2 pieces of dry firewood to the stove and started to cook porridge, then took out the dough that had been awakened last night and started to make dumplings. The filling was leeks and eggs, and the eggs were laid by the hens raised at home. There were 5 old hens at home, and 2 or 3 eggs could be obtained every day. The original owner saved these eggs and waited for her eldest grandson to come home during the holidays, and then she would give them to her eldest grandson to eat. The chives are grown in their own fields. They are very fresh and full of flavor. The buns made from them are naturally delicious. Where can city people eat these fresh farm vegetables without pesticides? The golden red morning light cast a golden red glow on the horizon, and the eldest grandson Tong Ruang got up. This child is a hard-working and good child like his father. Every time he goes home on vacation, he will help the original owner with things. Look, Su Qingni saw the boy carrying 2 wooden buckets out at a glance. There is no running water in the mountains. Everyone wants to use water and go to the mountain spring to fetch water. Tong Ruang has taken on the task of fetching water since he was 10 years old. In the first few years, he was young and couldn't carry 2 buckets of water, so he only carried 2.5 buckets and ran 2 or 3 more times. As he got older, the water in the bucket became more and more. However, carrying water can exercise the body. The young man has a good body and has never been sick in the nearly 10 years of living with the original owner. The boy filled the water tank soon, and Su Qingni also took out the steamed buns and handed one to the boy. The boy took a bite of half of the bun and squinted his eyes happily. The buns made by Grandma are even more delicious. Su Qingni smiled. If it tastes good, eat more. Grandma was bored at home and studied cooking. Now her cooking skills have improved a lot. The original owner's cooking skills were just average, and Su Qingni had to find an explanation for her change. Tong Ruang had no doubts at all, and ate the buns in big mouthfuls, feeling very happy. Su Qingni brought up 2 bowls of white porridge and 2 plates of side dishes. They were kohlrabi mixed with sesame oil and pickled bamboo shoots with peppers, both of which were very delicious. The kohlrabi and pickled bamboo shoots with peppers were made when the original owner was here. The taste was just so-so, but it was a familiar taste to Tong Ruang. Tong Ruang ate the buns and drank the porridge, feeling happy in his heart. He didn't envy those classmates in the town at all. It was their business to eat well and dress well. He had a grandma who loved him very much. Even if the family conditions were not good, she would do her best to make sure he had good food, clothes and could go to school. Grandma educated him wholeheartedly, and her love for him made up for the loss of his parents. Tong Ruang still remembers what his parents looked like, but he has let go of his desire and feelings for his mother. He only has his grandma in his heart, and he will respect her well when he grows up. Even if he leaves the mountains, he will take his grandma with him, and never be like his uncle. Chapter 1095, Village old lady 2. When Tong Ruiang finished his breakfast, Su Qingni came over with 2 baskets. Come on, accompany me to the mountains today. Tong Ruiang took the big basket, put it on his back, and followed Su Qingni out obediently. Walking on the mountain path, the boy asked curiously, Grandma, have all the wild fruits in the mountains been harvested? What are we going to do in the mountains? The firewood in the house was piled up in the woodshed. There was no shortage of firewood, and there was no need to collect firewood for the time being. This was what Grandma said last weekend. Why are we going into the mountains again today? Not to mention going into the mountains to catch wild rabbits and pheasants. Nowadays, wild rabbits and pheasants are smart and have all run into the deep mountains. There are very few rabbits and pheasants outside, and it is even more difficult to catch them. According to Grandma, the pheasants and rabbits outside were eaten up by people. For a period of time, people in the city like to eat wild game very much. After getting the news, the villagers who went out to work ran back and frantically hunted wild animals. Large wild animals could not be hunted, and pheasants and rabbits suffered. The villagers received a sum of money for this, but the pheasants and rabbits on the outskirts of the mountain also disappeared. In the following years, the villagers wanted to eat chickens and rabbits, so they could only eat the ones they raised at home. Su Qingni smiled mysteriously. Let's go make money. Tong Ruiang? Su Qingni did not answer the question of her grandson. She still wanted to surprise her grandson. This is a good child. Knowing that the family has no money, he never made excessive demands on the original owner. When he was promoted from primary school to middle school, Tong Ruiang ranked first in the county. The school in the city wanted to admit him, but he refused. Because the consumption in the city is higher than that in the small town, Tong Ruiang chose to stay in the junior high school in the town. But the teaching resources in the town really cannot be compared with the key middle schools in the city. If you want to get into a good university, the child still has to go to the city to study. The most important thing is money. If you have money, the child will not give up the opportunity to study in the city. The high school entrance examination will be held next semester. Su Qingni wants to make a lot of money before the child's high school entrance examination so that the child does not have to worry about money. It just so happened that when she first came to this world, she found a ginseng on the mountain. It was not very old, but it was still growing. It was 60 years old, and it was wild. It would definitely make a lot of money if it was sold. The ginseng grew near the mountains and was very hidden, so it had never been discovered. It was a bargain for Su Qingni. Su Qingni led Tong Ruiang all the way to the ginseng. Tong Ruiang was already panting from exhaustion, but Su Qingni's cheeks were only slightly red, and some fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. It was because she had just arrived and her body had not been well trained. If she had trained for a longer time, she would be able to walk these roads easily and would never feel tired. Tong Ruiang couldn't help but give Su Qingni a thumbs up. Grandma, you have great endurance. Su Qingni smiled and said, your grandma goes into the mountains every day, so of course she has good physical strength. It was only a few years ago that I got sick and my body was weak for a while, so I asked you, a little kid, to fetch water. Good boy, you don't have to fetch water every time you go home in the future. Just sleep a little longer on your days off and relax. Grandma, it's okay, fetching water is not tiring. Tong Ruiang said quickly. It's too hard for Grandma to raise him alone. Even if she is in good health, she can't bear it. He should help Grandma more when he is free. Su Qingni reached out and patted the boy's head. Don't worry about the family. After today, our family will not be short of money, and I, Grandma, will not work as hard as before. Tong Ruiang's curiosity was about to burst. Grandma, how are you going to make money? Su Qingni smiled and pointed to a place on the ground. Go and see for yourself. Tong Ruiang looked in the direction of Su Qingni's finger, but there was only a field of weeds and nothing could be seen. Su Qingni pulled the boy down to squat, pulled out the weeds, pointed to a plant left and asked Tong Ruiang, do you know what this is? Tong Ruiang carefully observed the plant. The leaves were 5 leaflets forming a palmate compound leaf, which was emerald green. In the middle was a small red fruit, which was bright red. The two matched each other and looked pretty good. The boy shook his head. He really couldn't recognize what this thing was. Su Qingni smiled and said, this is ginseng. The boy's eyes widened. Although he had little experience, he knew that wild ginseng was very valuable. Grandma, is it really wild ginseng? Su Qingni, of course, I estimate it is 50 or 60 years old. If you take it to the city, it will definitely be sold at a high price. So, Su Qingni patted the boy's head again. You don't have to worry about money in the future. You must work hard in this semester and strive to get into the key high school in the city, and then get into a key university in the future. Yes. The boy nodded vigorously. When I have a foothold in the city in the future, I will take grandma to live in the city. Okay. Su Qingni smiled. The two grandparents carefully dug the ginseng out of the ground. Su Qingni had experience and dug the ginseng very intact without damaging a single root. The next day, the boy was going down the mountain to go to the town school. Su Qingni took the ginseng down the mountain with the boy. The boy was worried that it was not safe for Su Qingni to go to the city alone, and Su Qingni smiled. Don't worry, although I rarely go down the mountain, I am not a country bumpkin who knows nothing. I am a very experienced person. Don't worry, I will never suffer any loss and I will not be in danger. Su Qingni took out 500 yuan and stuffed it into the hands of her eldest grandson. Our family will have money after selling ginseng, so don't be too frugal. Now is the stage of growing up. Eat well, otherwise you will not grow tall and become a second-class cripple in the future. The 15-year-old boy, who was 1.68 meters tall, felt a sense of crisis and decided to drink a glass of milk every night before going to bed. There is a cattle farm in their town, with fresh milk. The branded goods in the supermarket are cheaper, fresher and more nutritious. Su Qingni watched the boy walk into the school gate and turn to the bus station. Things in small places cannot be sold at a high price, so Su Qingni wanted to take a bus to the provincial capital. The provincial capital is a distance away from the town. First take a bus to the city, and then transfer to the high-speed rail to the provincial capital. It took Su Qingni nearly 4 hours to reach the provincial capital. The provincial capital is very prosperous, and the train station is even more crowded. Therefore, there are many shops and billboards here. As soon as Su Qingni left the train station, she saw a huge billboard. The beauty on it looked familiar yet strange. It was the original owner's daughter Tong Shuiao who became a star. Tong Shuiao in the advertisement was radiant, like a precious flower in a flower garden. She was nothing like the girl who was like a weed when she left the mountains. If the original owner saw Tong Shuiao like this, he would definitely not dare to recognize her as his daughter, right? Chapter 1096, Village Old Lady III. Su Qingni stared at the advertisement for a while, then retracted her gaze and walked towards the bus station. Su Qingni was not familiar with the provincial capital, so she did not sell ginseng immediately. Instead, she went to the digital mall in the city center and bought a domestic smartphone. At the end of the year, the village had access to the internet, and smartphones would be very useful. Su Qingni found another medium-sized hotel and moved in. This time when she came to the provincial capital, Su Qingni used all the savings of the original owner, but did not use the savings of her two children, a total of more than 3,000 yuan, enough for her to stay in the provincial capital for a few days. With a mobile phone and the internet in the hotel, Su Qingni turned on her mobile phone and went online to put the information about the sale of ginseng on the internet. Using hacking technology, the information about the sale of ginseng was directly posted on the homepage of a certain website, which was easily visible to people. When Su Qingni took a hot bath and came out of the bathroom with satisfaction, she received a call from someone who wanted to buy ginseng. After hanging up the phone, Su Qingni traced the caller's call information to see if the caller really wanted to buy ginseng or was a liar. Sure enough, 2 of the 3 calls were scammers, and only one was really interested in buying ginseng. Su Qingni checked the information of the buyer and found out that the family was quite wealthy, had family members, and was honest, so she called and agreed on the time and place for the transaction. The next day, Su Qingni took the ginseng to the agreed-to house. The other party was slightly surprised to see that the seller was an old country woman, and then he had more confidence in the ginseng he wanted to buy. The buyer not only came by himself, but also brought a relatively old man. The old man took the ginseng handed over by Su Qingni and carefully examined it. This person must be a professional expert, and it didn't take much time to get the result. He said to the buyer, "It's real wild ginseng, estimated to be more than 60 years old." After hearing this, the buyer turned to Su Qingni. "Old lady, please name a price." Su Qingni stretched out her palm and made a number. The buyer raised his eyebrows. The old woman in front of him was quite knowledgeable about the market. Nowadays, It is not easy to buy wild ginseng with a long history. There is no market for it. It is luck to come across a real wild ginseng. Therefore, the buyer did not bargain and directly transferred the money to Su Qingni. Su Qingni saw the prompt message of the receipt and curled her lips. "Thank you for your patronage." The buyer smiled. "Auntie, if you have good things in the future, please contact me on WeChat. I will never let you suffer a loss." Su Qingni smiled. "Okay." It happened that she wanted to rent a piece of mountain land in the village to open up a medicinal field. The buyer and the old man left happily with the wild ginseng, and helped Su Qingni to pay the bill before leaving. Su Qingni drank a cup of tea that cost hundreds of yuan and ate delicious snacks. She was very satisfied with the buyer's behavior. After sitting in the tea house for more than an hour and having a full stomach, Su Qingni got up and left. The tea house was not far from the hotel where Su Qingni lived, so she simply walked back. However, halfway through, someone blocked her way. Su Qingni looked at the motionless person on the ground and thought to herself, could it be someone trying to scam her? But who would want to scam me as she is an old woman? When she falls to the ground, will passers-by believe her or the scammer? Su Qingni walked forward slowly and saw the face and complexion of the person on the ground clearly. Oh, pale, it seems that he is really sick, not scamming. Su Qingni squatted beside the man, stretched out her hand to touch the man's wrist, and felt his pulse. He had not eaten for 2 days and only knew how to drink, which resulted in gastric bleeding and coma. Su Qingni called 120, and the ambulance arrived soon and sent the man to the hospital. Considering that the man's clothes were dirty and smelly, but they were branded goods and he would not deny his debt, Su Qingni helped him to advance the hospital expenses. Li Ziwen woke up and found himself lying on a hospital bed. Thinking that he fainted on the street, it should be a kind person who sent him to the hospital. Li Ziwen felt uncomfortable. The person closest to him stabbed him with a knife, but a stranger rescued him. "Are you awake?" A somewhat old voice sounded beside his ear. Li Ziwen turned his head and looked over, only to see an old woman sitting by the bed playing with her phone. She spoke only after she saw him wake up. "Did you take me to the hospital?" Li Ziwen asked in a low voice. Su Qingni nodded. "Yes, I also paid for your hospitalization fees. Remember to pay me back." "Li Ziwen, please give me my phone and I will transfer the money to you." Su Qingni was satisfied with the transfer from Li Ziwen and said to Li Ziwen, "Hurry up and contact your relatives to come to the hospital to take care of you. My family is not on the provincial capital, so I can't help you. I have to go back to my hometown tomorrow and can't stay in the hospital to take care of you. My parents are in Beijing, and I don't want them to worry." Li Ziwen frowned, thinking of his wife who betrayed him, and felt bad again. "Then I'll help you hire a nurse," Su Qingni suggested. Li Ziwen nodded and was very grateful to Su Qingni. "Thank you, auntie." Su Qingni waved her hand, indicating that there was no need to thank her. She is in a good mood now, and is happy to do some good things at her leisure. After hiring an honest and reputable caregiver for Li Ziwen, Su Qingni left, checked out of the hotel room, and took a bus back to the village. She didn't know that she had helped a very capable person with just a little help. On the way back to the village by bus, Su Qingni took a deep breath. The air in the village is still good. The air in the provincial capital is too turbid. With the freshness of the air in the village, it is a good place for recuperation. If a farmhouse or a mountain villa is built, rich people will probably want to come. It's just that the mountain road is really difficult to walk on, which prevented others from coming here. After resting for a day, Su Qingni went to find the village chief and said that she would pay to help the village build roads. Once the road is built, it will be easier for everyone to go up and down the mountain, and the mountain products in our village can be shipped out in large quantities for sale. This time I went to the provincial capital and found that mountain delicacies are very popular among city dwellers, and the prices are very high. Su Qingni talked about the benefits of building roads. It will be much more convenient for children to go to school in the future, and we don't have to worry about the children slipping and falling off the cliff on rainy days. The village chief nodded repeatedly, and then asked the most important question, "Where did you get so much money to build the road?" Su Qingni did not hide it. "I found an old ginseng in the mountains some time ago and sold it in the provincial capital. I took out 2/3 of the money to build the road." The village chief felt that Su Qingni was very conscious. Many people would keep their money to themselves when they had it and move out of the village with the money. They would never take out most of it like Su Qingni to benefit the village. With Su Qingni's character, it's no wonder the god favors her and gives her wealth. Chapter 1097, Village Old Lady 4. The village chief was anxious. The villagers talked about the road construction. The villagers gave Su Qingni a thumbs up and expressed their gratitude. After Su Qingni returned home, her home has never been quiet. Villagers came to Su Qingni's house one after another to give things. The things are not expensive, just some chicken and duck eggs and homemade pickles and bacon. This is their heartfelt gift. When Su Qingni saw the bacon, she remembered that the weather was getting colder, and she should make bacon and sausage. The original body raised a big fat pig just to kill it at the end of the year to make bacon and sausage. The original body didn't keep much of these bacon and sausages, and sent them all to his son and daughter outside the mountain. But this year Su Qingni will not give the bacon and sausages to the two ungrateful wolves. She will keep them all for her eldest grandson to eat, and sell them if she can't finish them. Anyway, the internet will be available soon, and then she will open a store on Taobao to sell the products of the mountains. The village chief went down the mountain to talk to the town leaders about the road construction the next day. When the town leaders heard that the people in their village paid for it themselves, they all supported it. Many difficulties were solved and they helped to contact the construction team as quickly as possible. A week later, the construction team arrived in the village and started construction. Su Qingni also paid the material fee and half of the project fee to the construction team. Su Qingni paid the money quickly and gave a lot of money, which made the construction team very satisfied, and the construction was also very smooth. The villagers also hoped that the road could be repaired quickly, so they naturally had a very good attitude towards the construction team and often sent water and food to them. The people in the construction team felt that these people in the mountains were so honest and lovely, so they worked very hard and carefully, wanting to reward these villagers with the best quality. Su Qingni asked Lao Zhao in the village to help her kill pigs. Lao Zhao had a good skill in killing pigs. He used to work in a meat processing plant, but he was old, so he retired and returned to the village to retire. At the end of the year, he helped the villagers kill pigs and earned some pork to go home for himself. The original body asked Lao Zhao to slaughter pigs every year. Lao Zhao also knew who the original body made sausages and bacon for, and felt that it was not worth it for the original body. Every year, the original body worked so hard to make bacon and sausages, and then sent them to the two children, but the two children did not show any expression after receiving the things, and even did not come back to visit their old mother during the Chinese New Year. Is this a manifestation of filial piety? Sister Su, will your son and daughter come home this year? Su Qingni, it doesn't matter whether they come home or not. I don't expect them, and I don't miss them anymore. Oh. Lao Zhao was surprised. Sister Su was disappointed with her children and had let it go. Then you will make bacon and sausages and send them to them. Su Qingni, no, I will keep some of these bacon and sausages for Niangniang and me to eat, and I plan to sell the rest online. What? Online? Yes, isn't our village going to have internet access by the end of the year? I bought a laptop when I went to the city this time. I will use the computer to go online, open a store online, and sell all the mountain products and bacon in our village. Can you sell things online? Of course you can. You can sell anything online. Su Qingni talked about Taobao. It wasn't just Lao Zhao who came to Su Qingni's house. Other villagers came to help, and they would have a pig-killing banquet at Su Qingni's house later. Almost everyone in the village gathered at Su Qingni's house. When Su Qingni said that they could sell mountain products online, everyone was excited and looked forward to the network being open soon. For example, when they sold pheasants and rabbits, they made a lot of money. Unfortunately, the mountain road was too difficult to walk on. Only a part of the rabbits and pheasants went down the mountain. Most of the remaining ones were not durable and became their food. The same was true for mountain products. Although many mountain products could be stored, it was a waste of effort to transport them down the mountain, and they had no channels to sell them. Every year, they kept the mountain products for themselves. To be honest, they were a little tired of eating them. Many people asked Su Qingni how to operate Taobao.com. Su Qingni couldn't explain it clearly for a while. She only said that after the network was opened, everyone bought a computer and then taught them to surf the internet. The village was full of left-behind elderly people and children. Their children worked outside and gave them living expenses every year. These elderly people were not like the original owners who saved all their money for their sons and daughters. They spent the pension money given by their children happily. They also had a lot of savings on hand, so they could still buy a domestic computer. After slaughtering the pig in a lively manner and eating a delicious pig-killing banquet, Lao Zhao left with a pig's head and tail. Su Qingni left 4 pig's trotters, plucked the hair, cleaned them, and stewed them with soybeans. Today is Friday, and Tong Ruang will go home in the evening. He stewed the food for his grandson to nourish his body. The middle school in the town has no classes on Friday afternoons, all to take care of the students living in the village and the mountains. Tong Ruang usually rushes home after lunch, but because the mountain road is difficult to walk, it takes him at least 7 or 8 hours, and he can only get home at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Su Qingni has already prepared the meal. When she saw her grandson coming in, she hurried to the kitchen to serve the dishes. The fragrant pig's trotter was placed in front of Tong Ruang, and Tong Ruang's eyes lit up. "Eat it quickly, I stewed it for 10 hours, and the pig's trotter is stewed." Su Qingni smiled and scooped a pig's trotter with a spoon and put it in the boy's bowl. The boy started eating immediately. The soft and rotten pig's trotter was extremely delicious. The boy happily ate the whole pig's trotter quickly. Su Qingni scooped another pig's trotter for the boy. Now is the time for the boy to grow up, so she is not afraid of him eating too much. "Grandma, you eat too." The boy also scooped a pig's trotter for Su Qingni. Su Qingni ate with a smile. She had exercised her body well now, so she could digest meat even if she ate it late at night without food stagnation. After the 2 grandparents finished dinner, the boy washed the dishes consciously, and Su Qingni made 2 cups of hawthorn water. Holding the hawthorn water, the boy asked, "Grandma, have you sold the ginseng?" Su Qingni did not answer but asked, "Have you seen the mountain road under construction?" Tong Ruang nodded. Because of the mountain road construction, he turned a corner and got home 20 minutes later than before. Su Qingni said, "The mountain road under construction was paid by me, Grandma. I spent 2/3 of the money from selling ginseng to build the road. When the road is built, I will buy you an electric car. In the future, you won't have to take so long to go home from school. You can get home in an hour at most." Tong Ruang opened his mouth wide. 2/3 of the money was enough to build the road, so how much did the ginseng sell for? Su Qingni gave Tong Ruang a number and said how much money was left in her hand. The remaining money was also an astronomical figure for the boy. "Half of this money will be left for you to go to college and pay the down payment for a house, and the other half Grandma wants to use to do something." Chapter 1098, Village Old Lady 5. "What is Grandma going to do?" Tong Ruang asked. He didn't care about the money, but what his grandma was going to do, and he was worried that his grandma would be tired. "I want to contract a piece of mountain land and grow some medicinal herbs. Medicinal herbs are quite valuable now, especially those in the mountains. The price is definitely more expensive than those in specialized planting areas. Grandma, I met a medicinal herb merchant when I went to the provincial capital to sell ginseng this time. I don't have to worry about not being able to sell our medicinal herbs in the future. Is it hard to grow Chinese medicinal herbs? Not hard. I just grow them for fun and make some pocket money." Oh. Tong Ruang was not very reassured, thinking that if Grandma was happy, let her grow them. At most, he would do more things and help Grandma every time he came back from vacation. Su Qingni was concerned about her grandson's study again. Tong Ruang's grades were very good, and he was always in the top 10 in the grade. This has always been the pride of the original owner. "You should go to the city for high school. The teachers in the city are better than those in the town. You will be able to get into a good university in the future. But the city is too far from home." Su Qingni smiled and comforted her grandson. "It's not that far. It only takes more than 2 hours to get to the city from the town. When the mountain road is repaired in the future, it will take you no more than 3 hours to get home from the city, which is half the time it takes now." Tong Ruang thought about it and felt that it was right. He actually wanted to go to school in the city. Just like Grandma said, the teachers in the city are good. 2 of his elementary school classmates went to key schools in the city for junior high school. Their original grades were not as good as his, but now their grades have surpassed his. However, with their grades, they are only ranked around 100 in the city school. Then, with his grades that rank in the top 10 in the town middle school, he can't even get into the top 100 in the city school? Tong Ruang didn't want to go to the city before because he had to go home every week to see his grandmother and help her with things, and because the mountain road was not easy to walk. When the mountain road is repaired, I don't have to worry about the time. Even if I go to the city to study, I can go back to the mountain to see my grandmother every week." The two grandparents chatted for a while and then went back to their rooms to rest. Early the next morning, Tong Ruang got up again to fetch water. There was still half a tank of water in the water tank at home, but Su Qingni was going to make bacon and sausages today, which required a lot of water. After breakfast, Su Qingni started to make bacon and sausages. The original body was very good at making bacon and sausages, and the finished products were very delicious. The two unfilial children would call every year to ask for more bacon and sausages. Originally, the original owner only used half a pig to make bacon and sausages every year, and the remaining half of the pig could be exchanged for money. But the two unfilial children wanted more and more, and finally the original body used the whole pig to make bacon and sausages. Tong Ruang helped Su Qingni on the side. The two were busy for 2 days before they marinated the bacon, and the sausages had not been packed yet. However, Tong Ruang was going to school, so Su Qingni had to do the work of packing sausages herself. Su Qingni drove away the nagging teenager. "Isn't it just packing sausages? What's so tiring about it? The original owner could pack sausages by himself, let alone her." After the sausages and bacon were packed, they had to be smoked. There were pine, cypress and sweet wormwood in the mountains. Su Qingni had already picked them and brought them home. After lighting them, she slowly smoked the bacon. After a month, the bacon was ready. A month later, the staff who installed the network came to the village, installed signal devices for the village, and opened the network. Su Qingni took out her laptop and mobile phone to connect to the network. The elderly who had already bought computers came to Su Qingni's house with their own laptops and mobile phones, and followed Su Qingni to learn how to surf the internet, how to use WeChat and Alipay, and how to open a Taobao account. However, Su Qingni asked everyone to open a store together, and not to act independently. The villagers thought that Su Qingni's proposal was good. If they all opened a store, wouldn't it be too scattered? Moreover, there were not many mountain products in their own homes, and they could not support the year-round operation of a store. It would be better for everyone to unite together, with more goods and no competition. After discussion, everyone decided to let Tong Yuan, the youngest son of the village chief, take charge of the store. Tong Yuan graduated from university less than half a year ago and had just entered the society. He was not used to the intrigues of big companies. He was treated as a cannon fodder and was fired by the company. He was in a bad mood and went home to celebrate the new year and relax. He would go back to the city to find a job after the new year. But Tong Yuan had a shadow in his heart because of this incident and didn't want to go back to the city. He came to Su Qingni's house as a guide for everyone. Together with Su Qingni, he taught everyone how to surf the internet. He happened to hear Su Qingni discussing with everyone about opening a store to sell mountain products. Tong Yuan's heart moved. This was a good idea. If he opened a store, he would buy everyone's mountain products and sell them online, and earn the difference from it. It would also be a good job. Tong Yuan then recommended himself, and the villagers readily agreed. The purchase price that Tong Yuan guaranteed to everyone was not low. It was a little more expensive than the price they had to transport to the mountain to sell. How could they not agree? As for how much Tong Yuan set the price online, they didn't care. Tong Yuan should also make money, right? After the villagers left, Su Qingni asked Tong Yuan to stay. Tong Yuan swallowed his saliva. Grandma Su. Although Grandma Su looked very kind, he didn't know why he felt that Grandma Su was very majestic, and was more frightening than his father, the village chief, and the dean of his middle school. Tong Yuan sat in front of Su Qingni like a primary school student. Even though he was very confused, he didn't dare to ask. Su Qingni smiled and said, "Relax." This smile was like a spring breeze, which made Tong Yuan's fear disappear. He just felt that the person in front of him was very kind. "Grandma Su, what do you want to talk to me about? Is it about the store?" Tong Yuan asked his doubts. Su Qingni smiled and said, "I want to ask if you have seen the live broadcast." Tong Yuan nodded. Su Qingni continued to ask, "Then have you ever done a live broadcast?" Tong Yuan shook his head. Su Qingni said, "When you go home, open a live broadcast account and make preparations to broadcast our village's New Year celebrations live." Tong Yuan, huh? Su Qingni, let everyone see the authentic farm dishes we eat, and see how we make bacon and sausages. Then they will come to our store to buy mountain products. In the spring, we will go into the mountains for a few more walks, Let them see the pure natural scenery, and put wild vegetables on the shelves in the store. Our mountains are rich in products and the scenery is charming. These are all selling points. Tuang Yuan's eyes bulged when he heard this, and he stuttered, Su, Grandma Su, I'm afraid I can't do it well. If I can't do it well, then I can't do it well. Anyway, people in the live broadcast room are watching the natural scenery and goods, not you as the anchor. Tuang Yuan. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1099, Village Old Lady VI. Although Tuang Yuan had some social phobia because of the company's affairs, he could still do live broadcasting without communicating with strangers face to face. Just as Su Qingni said, those who entered his live broadcast room to watch the live broadcast were all here to see the scenery and cultural landscape, and they didn't care too much about him as a host. Tuang Yuan relaxed after being nervous for a while. Tuang Yuan's live broadcast room is called Original Mountain Life. When it was broadcast, it attracted dozens of people, all of whom were city children who yearned for natural scenery. Although the host in this live broadcast room is not a handsome guy, he speaks a little stuttering and his words are not connected, but what he shows everyone is very attractive. The audience can see that the host is really living in the village head in the mountains. Although it is winter, there is still some green in the mountains, which makes people feel refreshed. The audience saw that most of the people in the mountain village are old people and children, and they know that this is a left-behind mountain village. However, the mental outlook of the elderly here is different from that of the elderly in other places. The elderly here look energetic and full of hope for life. They don't seem lonely at all because their children are not around. Seeing that the Chinese New Year is coming, the elderly in every family are preparing New Year goods. Bacon, sausage, melon seeds, peanuts, maltose, sugar cakes, these things are all made by the elderly themselves. On the first day, the anchor took them to watch the elderly make sausages and bacon. After watching the whole process, everyone felt that the sausages and bacon in the anchor's hometown were clean and delicious, and asked the anchor if he could sell some of the sausages and bacon made by these elderly people to them. Tuang Yuan's eyes lit up at once. Business is coming. He reported the name and address of the store on Taobao. He didn't know how much money these viewers would really go to the store to buy, but only one person, which also represented the beginning of success. The next day, Tuang Yuan took everyone to watch the elderly make maltose by themselves. It takes a long time to make maltose, and some processes need to be made in advance. Tuang Yuan followed all the way until the maltose was completed. The audience was very curious and expressed their desire to buy maltose. Tuang Yuan said that the store would be stocked. On the third day, the fourth day, more and more viewers entered Tuang Yuan's live broadcast room, and his small shop finally had customers. Although life is very convenient now, people want to eat sausages and bacon, which are sold in supermarkets and vegetable markets. But these sausages and bacon are made with seasonings produced in factories, and the taste is stereotyped. How can they be as delicious as those made by farmers themselves? In particular, Tuang Yuan live broadcast a family slaughtering pigs one day, letting the audience know that the materials for making bacon and sausages are raised by authentic farmers, and more people want bacon and sausages. A large number of orders came to Taobao's store. Tuang Yuan immediately found the old people in the village, asked them for goods, and shipped them in front of the audience, so that they could see that the goods in his store were really products from farmers, and there was no fake or inferior goods. The audience was very satisfied, and more people placed orders. The bacon and sausages that the old people in the village had just made were not enough to sell. Later, the old people bought several pigs from the village on the hillside and came back to meet the orders on the internet. On this side alone, the old people and Tuang Yuan made a lot of money. Su Qingni also sold 3/4 of the sausages and bacon she made, and left the remaining quarter for herself and Tuang Ruiang to eat. In a blink of an eye, it was the 12th lunar month, and Tuang Ruiang also had winter vacation. Although the mountain road was not completely repaired, more than half of it had been repaired. It's just that some of the originally dangerous places are not easy to repair, and it takes a long time and manpower and material resources. However, this half of the repair can also benefit everyone. At least the time taken to go down the mountain can be shortened by 1/3. The villagers organized several activities to carry the things purchased from the online store down the mountain and send them to all parts of the country. Then everyone bought a lot of daily necessities and New Year's goods at the foot of the mountain, and then carried them up the mountain together. When everyone saw Su Qingni carrying the sausages and bacon down the mountain, they thought it was to be sent to her 2 children, but they didn't expect it to be sent to customers of the online store forever. Everyone was still a little surprised. "Aunt Su, aren't you going to send sausages and bacon to your daughter this year?" "No." Su Qingni said casually, "They don't seem to be more filial even if I give them to them. It's better to sell them for money." Others think Su Qingni is right. Aunt Su's 2 children are too outrageous. They have been away from home for 10 years and have never come back to see Aunt Su once. Although alimony is sent every year, is it money that Aunt Su wants? What she wants is for her children to come back to see her. Aunt Su's life is not easy. Her husband died early. She raised 3 children with great difficulty, but the most filial one died early. It was enough to let Aunt Su send off the young ones. As a result, the remaining 2 are so unfilial. They never come back after leaving home, and they don't call Aunt Su to care about them on a daily basis. It's better to raise a pig than to raise them. At least you can eat pork from raising pigs. It's just that Aunt Su still has a big grandson around, who can comfort Aunt Su's loneliness, otherwise Aunt Su would be too pitiful. How can a person who has been alone for thousands of years have any spirit? He might not live long. Tong Yuan was running around to help everyone pack the goods. When he heard Su Qingni's words, his eyes moved. He came back from outside, so he naturally knew that Tong Shuiao was a big star. Seeing that the old people in the village didn't know, he wondered whether he should tell Su Qingni the news. On the way back, Tong Yuan walked to Su Qingni and whispered, "Aunt Su, do you want to know the news about Sister Shuiao?" Su Qingni didn't feel tired while carrying a basket of about 40 kilograms of things. She smiled and shook her head and said, "No." Tong Yuan didn't believe it. How could a mother not miss her children? "Aunt Su, I know about Sister Shuiao. She is a star now." Su Qingni, "I know. You can search for her information on the internet." Tong Yuan widened his eyes. You searched for Sister Shuiao's information on the internet?" Su Qingni smiled. "What? Do you think I am an antique and don't know how to use the internet?" No. Tong Yuan shook his head hurriedly. He thought of the situation when Su Qingni taught others to use the internet. The old lady in front of him was really not an antique, but a fashionable old lady. "Then, aren't you angry when you see what Sister Shuiao said?" Tong Yuan asked carefully. Tong Shuiao never mentioned her parents. When someone asked her about it, she perfunctorily said a few words. Others heard nothing, but the people in the village could hear Tong Shuiao's contempt for the mountain village and her complaints about her mother. Su Qingni chuckled, "I don't care anymore, so how can I be angry?" Chapter 1100, Village Old Lady 7. Su Qingni is not the original body, and she doesn't care about the 2 unfilial daughters. Whether they live well or not has nothing to do with her. Their words and deeds can't affect Su Qingni. Su Qingni just needs to take good care of her eldest grandson. The eldest grandson is also the most important in the original body's wish. She must be disappointed with her 2 children. The New Year atmosphere in the mountain village is much stronger than in the city, and Tong Yuan's live broadcast has attracted more and more viewers. The audience knows that the mountain village is in the mountains and the mountain roads are very difficult to walk, so they are more eager for the output of the mountain village. This is the real mountain product. Everyone went to Tong Yuan's shop to place orders, but they couldn't get the goods quickly after placing the order. Everyone understands this. After all, the mountain road is too difficult to walk. Tong Yuan live broadcasted going down the mountain once. It takes at least 3 or 4 hours to go down the mountain. It is said that it is because someone in the village paid to repair half of the road that the time to go down the mountain is shortened. If it was a few months ago, it would take at least 7 or 8 hours to go down the mountain. The small shop and the live broadcast room were booming, and the villagers were working enthusiastically. Su Qingni was infected by everyone and lived a happy life every day. At this time, the 2 unfilial children called. The first one to call was the youngest son Tong Jiaming. "Mom, why haven't the bacon and sausages been sent here this year?" Su Qingni snorted coldly, "If you want to eat bacon and sausages, go buy them yourself. I am not a servant in your family, and I have no obligation to make bacon and sausages for your family for free." "Mom, why do you say that? I'm your son, So what if you make some bacon and sausages for me? Tuang Jiaming was surprised that Su Qingni would say such a thing. Su Qingni, you are my son? You are the son of your good father-in-law and mother-in-law. Tell me honestly, do you really regard me as your mother? You look down on me as your biological mother and don't want to be my son at all, right? Mom, what's wrong with you? Why are you so stubborn? Why don't I want to be your son? Are you angry because I didn't go home for the new year? Didn't I say it? I'm very busy at work, and I have to visit clients during the new year, so I don't have time to go home. Please be more considerate of me. I will transfer the money to you later. For this year's pension, I will give you an extra 5,000. Tuang Jiaming really looked down on his old mother in his hometown. The uneducated country woman could not give him any help. When he was in high school, he was reluctant to mention his mother when others asked him about his parents. The mothers of other classmates are teachers, doctors, rich wives, or at least hawkers, and they can also make a lot of money for their sons and daughters. Unlike his mother, the living expenses she gave him every month were only enough for him to eat steamed buns and vegetables, and he was laughed at by other classmates. After graduating from college, he married a wealthy wife. Facing his noble and elegant mother-in-law, he didn't want to mention his mother. He was afraid of bringing his mother to his father-in-law and mother-in-law to embarrass himself. Su Qingni haha, Tuang Jiaming is now a manager in his father-in-law's company, with a monthly salary of 100,000 yuan. With bonuses and other things, he earns more than 2 million yuan a year. His wife has shares, so the income is even more. The two of them buy a set of bags that cost tens of thousands of yuan, but he only gives 50,000 yuan to his biological mother who raised him every year, which shows how much he dislikes his biological mother in his heart. I don't expect you to come back. Su Qingni snorted and said, I don't want to see you either. I have thought it through and just treat you as if I don't have a son. You don't have to send me money in the future, and I won't make things for you like an old lady and send them to you. Just treat me as dead, and I will treat you as dead. I don't expect you to support me in my old age, and don't bother me. After that, she hung up the phone. Tuang Jiaming was a little confused when he heard the busy tone coming from the phone. This was the first time his mother took the initiative to hang up his phone. His mother actually said that she didn't want him as her son, didn't want his money, and didn't expect him to support her in her old age? Exclamation mark. Was this just an angry remark? But his mother's tone was very calm, as if she had thought it through carefully, and didn't sound like an angry remark. Did his mother really not want him as her son? Tuang Jiaming's heart suddenly felt empty, as if he had lost something very important, and he wanted to cry. What are you daydreaming about? Did your mother say when she would send the bacon and sausages? His wife's words interrupted Tuang Jiaming's sadness. Tuang Jiaming shook his head. My mother said that she will not send us sausages and bacon anymore. She said that if we want to eat them, we should spend our own money to buy them. She will not be our nanny anymore. She also said that she does not want me to give her money and does not need me to support her in her old age. What? She will not give us sausages and bacon anymore. The wife was angry when she heard it. Is your mother trying to make trouble? Isn't it that she makes sausages and bacon a little bit more delicious? What's so good about it? Is she threatening you to go back to see her? Tuang Jiaming continued to shake his head. No, my mother's tone was very calm. She seemed to really not want to recognize me as her son. If you don't want to recognize me, then don't recognize me. What's so good about recognizing that old country woman? From now on, my mother is your mother. You just need to be filial to my parents. The wife snorted. She likes handsome and capable husbands, but she really despises her husband's background and his relatives in the countryside. It would be best if her husband could break away from those people in the countryside. Facing a young, beautiful and rich wife, Tuang Jiaming naturally put his mother in the countryside behind his mind. The bacon and sausages made by my mother taste good, but as long as you have money, you can buy better tasting bacon and sausages. However, the annual alimony still needs to be paid to my mother, and no one can gossip about me. Not long after Su Qingni put down the phone, her daughter Tang Shuiao also called, also urging for bacon and sausages. No. Su Qingni said coldly, no this year, and there won't be any in the future. I would rather exchange the bacon and sausages I made myself for money than give them to my heartless children. How do I have no conscience? I give you alimony every year and fulfill my obligations as a daughter. Tang Shuiao said unconvinced on the other end of the phone. Su Qingni snorted lightly. How much money do you earn every year? How much do you give me? Tong Shuiao, is 20,000 yuan not too little? 20,000 yuan is enough for you to live a good life in your hometown. My money is earned by my hard work, and I spend more when I earn more. Why don't you understand me? Su Qingni, I understand you, understand that you look down on your own biological mother. Tong Shuiao, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't you think the money is not enough? Then it's okay for me to give you an extra 10,000 every year. No need. I don't want your money, and don't ask me for things. I don't want to do thankless things. Su Qingni said, there is no bacon and sausage. If you want to eat it, go buy it yourself. Buy it yourself. Tong Shuiao was more irritable than Tong Jiaming, and hung up the phone directly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.